Hi guys. How's everything? So here's a little, I guess, Friday night edition of a live going on, except where it's not okay. So we're still going to do high strangeness tomorrow night, but since we've kind of talked about prepping here and there, I'm like, okay, let's finally just make it a weekly series. Haven't decided on a day yet, but here we are. Thanks, guys, for being here tonight. So we are just going to go into prepping 101, three B's. And I'm sure you guys know what the three B's are: beans, bullets, and band-aids. Sorry, I had to think about it a second because my mom, because she calls it beans, bullets, and badasses. So I'm like, okay, which one is it? So thanks guys for being here tonight. Let's see who's in the chat. See, Ada, Insidious Tomas, it is now. I haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for coming back. Are we a day early? Well, a day early in the sense of different show, but I'll still be here tomorrow night. Bearded Saint, Agenda 69, Tin Top, My Online Ghost, Torin. What's up, guys? Thank you for being here tonight on a Friday night. But as I like to say, the world has changed. Like, who really wants to go out and be around all the kind of zombies in the world on the weekends anymore? I have such a low tolerance for people. People have really changed. So I'm like, this is way better with my internet friends, the people who live in the computer. Except I know you don't live in the computer. I know you're real. So thanks guys for coming in tonight. So that I like to see you squirm. Well, here's the thing. I am just one of these people who are late. I was going to say, well, you know what? That would involve giving away my last name, but my last name, when you put it next to late, kind of flows. So sometimes I've been nicknamed that. But thanks, guys, for hanging around and waiting, for knowing my MO when it comes to lateness. I'm usually coming right back from somewhere and then hopping into this. So it's like, oh, that whole thing. One of these days, I'll learn to get my whole setup set up before I actually leave the house. That way I can just get right into it. So you like that? Yeah, beans, bullets, and badasses. Yeah, we're all pretty much on the same page with that in my family. I guess, I don't know. What really intrigued me back in Y2K when I was a kid, the Y2K bug was being talked about, and when you're like a kid and you're like, wow, this could really happen. Like, you could have a grid down scenario, and then we could potentially go and be in hard times and not have electricity and everything. Like, as a kid, it's kind of mind-blowing because you get used to the world being in a certain way and you don't think that things could change. So it kind of like opened my eyes and really intrigued me then. And I was in elementary school. It's pretty wild for an elementary school kid to wrap their head around. And so that I've always kind of had an interest. And my grandparents on one side were in World War II. In World War II, they lived in Europe, so they really experienced some really rough times in Italy. So, because even though Italy was was allied with the Nazis and everything, the Nazis still came in and really decimated Italy, and they were living under that rule and starving basically and freezing. So my relatives had learned a lot of lessons through that have been passed down through the generations. So kind of always had that awareness and always had this interest. And then I think like around college, I really just started digging into it, and I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let me see what goes on with that and what people do. And I think my mom had started finding some YouTube videos on it, and I was intrigued. And I remember in college going during my breaks, because I was a commuter. I'm not a big fan of schools, so I'm not living, eating, sleeping, breathing school 24/7. I need the separation. So I commuted. So during my breaks, I'd go into the computer lab and I would hop onto a website called Survival Blog and just be reading and, fascinated with what it was tracking in the world and potential pandemics and plagues and this and that and all these different types of scenarios and just the basics of getting started. And so that's kind of just, just really caught my attention since then. The idea of being ready for whatever comes your way. And not that, some people, you have a ton of different ways you can do this. You can do this to the extreme where some people have like retreats and bunkers and this and that, or you can just do it in just this, more mild way where like, okay, if we are without power for a few weeks, like let's say when Hurricane Sandy happened in New York, how can we keep ourselves fed and have everything we need and keep ourselves warm, because when that hit here and we were stuck with that electricity, didn't realize how cold it gets in a house in September. So so there's a whole spectrum of how prepared you want to be, and I know that sometimes prepping has been turned into a bad word nowadays, with like the kind of preppers had been villainized, and look at these nut jobs and everything. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with wanting to take care of yourself. Like I'm watching this show right now on Apple TV Plus called 5 Days of Memorial, and and it's about Hurricane Katrina. And I thought I knew what there was to know about it, that things were bad, that people really, that it had gotten pretty extreme in some places, but I had never realized the extent of it and what happens when things break down. In that type of scenario, and there's nobody leading the efforts, or how much disorganization there was going on down there. I never realized the extent of it until I saw this show. And here's the thing with TV, with movies, like horror doesn't scare me. Jump scares don't scare me. I've gone to the movies with my friends, with really jump scare horror movies, and they're like, why aren't you scared? I'm like, this stuff doesn't scare me. But you know what does scare me? Things that are based on true events. And let me tell you, it makes me so anxious watching this show, because you see how fast the breakdown of things happen. The breakdown of society happens, the breakdown of order happens in a situation like this. And just besides breakdowns, the concept of nobody's going to be there to help you. Yeah, supposedly we have these things in place, but look, did it serve the people in New Orleans during Katrina? It didn't. So the idea that, yeah, quote unquote, first responders there to help you, but you are your own first responder. That's why my mother hates the term first responder, because she's like, you are the people that are there. You have to be ready. You have to be ready to take care of yourself. Like in these situations, people aren't coming to help you. And I think that's where preparedness comes in. How can you take care of yourself, your family, your loved ones? And besides survive, how can you thrive in this situation? And just the way things are just spiraling out of control in the world, we have constant shortages. We have, I was just looking at an article on a cotton shortage. So lovely. So besides all the food processing plants burning down and our food distribution plants, not that we should be eating processed foods, but because so many people do rely on that, that's a problem. And now the textile industry is kind of breaking down. And then as gas prices go up, you have bigger costs involved with moving goods, besides the fact that at some point the truckers are going to go, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore. So we're just in a time where you're seeing a constant breakdown of everything. The fact that you can't get formulas, the fact that things are just we would have these things happen once in a while, but I feel like it's happening at an exponential rate. And I think, if you are not into preparedness, right now is a perfect time to get started. And if you are, good for you. You are ahead of the curve. So tonight I'm like, let's talk about the basics of it. So those of you who are already familiar with what I have to say, you know what? Why don't you hang out and you can, add to the conversation in the chat. Maybe you can help answer people's questions in it. And anyone who's new, feel free to throw your questions into the chat to see how we can all be ready together. Because besides, being ready, with your 3Bs, a lot of us, majority of us here are into crypto. We're into Hex. We're into Pulse Chain. We're into Pulse X. And that is another way to carry yourself forward and to be able to survive and thrive. Because if you're in the United States, as the dollar is breaking down, as our economy is crashing, things like Hex and Pulse X are going to become so much more important, and they're going to increase in value so much. So that is part. So if you are in Hex, if you are in crypto, if you are in whatever you're in, you're already part of the way there. You're already getting financially prepared for a societal collapse, societal breakdown. But you know what? Let's get some other physical things in there that you might need in that situation. So let me just catch up with the chat and see who is in here. Mr. Okel, Andrew Kennedy, Hex Hoddle, YouTube. Oh, that is a tongue twister. Thoughts Child. That was for tomorrow. So yeah, so that was for the regular high strangeness. I would love to have you back tomorrow if you want to chat, because I would love to talk to you about I forgot about the name, but the seventh year that happens in the Jewish calendar, where things kind of big things kind of go down, I would love to discuss that with you tomorrow night if you are game. And the Shemitah, is that it? Okay, sorry. I usually know it, but I'm just drawing a blank on it right now. Oh, Antonio, thank you for coming back. I feel like I so rarely had seen you in the live, so I'm happy seeing you back in the lives again. My online ghost, thanks guys for coming in. Seems like we got a nice crowd going tonight. I can't wait to discuss this with you guys. So Thoughts Child says, you are absolutely correct in this. Folks are lazy, uncritical, trust the wrong stuff. We've seen time and time again the entity that gets you your victuals. Yes, they don't care if you suffer. Exactly. Nobody cares what happens to us. Like, I'm telling you guys, watch this show. 5 Days Memorial, such proof that, you know what, nobody cares. They had a hospital full of people with no electricity, no water. They're running low on the meds, and they could not get help in to help rescue these people who are now who are, you know, at this point in the series, you know, starting to come down with heat stroke, starting to, you know, they're running low on their insulin. They can't treat these people anymore, and they're starting to triage, you know. So that is perfect. And you know, I'm so blown away by that, the fact that things like that happen. And it's scary, it's horrifying, and it's a sad show, but I mean, it's also, it just terrifies me to watch. And that's the perfect example of, they don't care. They don't care that that hospital was full of people suffering. So if we have any other situation, you know, happens in the, what do they say? Call it SHTF, shit hits the fan scenarios. They're going to be saving themselves. They're not going to care about you. So yeah, you are on point with that. Yeah, exactly. We have to be our own defense and our own first self-responders. That's why medical training is so important. The ability to defend yourself are so important. You know, there's some areas where, especially where they're having, you know, major funding issues or cops quitting, where what is the response time? Like half an hour? I mean, at that point, you're kind of done for if you're in a really bad situation. It's scary. You were enjoying chocolate ice cream watching this. Very nice. I had a mint chocolate chip sundae this week. It was very good. That was my treat for the week. Yeah, and it's only getting started. Exactly. Things are tanking now, and this is just the beginning. So if you think this is bad, just wait. What's going to happen? And when Thoughts Child and I were doing a stream a couple weeks ago, you know, he brought up the Shemitah year, where, forgive me if I'm explaining it wrong, but you know, I think it's the 7th year in the Jewish calendar. Jewish calendar cycles through, you know, it's like a 7-year cycle. And usually in that year is when things tend to happen. When you look at big events in history, they tend to happen on these years. So that happens. That's that new year that's coming on Rosh Hashanah. And, you know, people were already expecting things to go bad and happen in the fall. So interesting that this new year happens to line up with those predictions. Hey, a wild SJ, long time no see. Thanks for popping in tonight. Yeah, nobody's coming to help you. Yeah, by the time FEMA gets there, the bodies are already stacked up. And you know what? This show showed the fact that, you know, even when you do have rescue organizations in place, there was no coordination. There was no plan. People did not have evacuation plans. The military didn't even know what they were doing. There was nobody coordinating these people. So what are we, 17 years on from that happened at the end of August? I don't believe that anything has gotten better, that any type of coordination or ability to, you know, to help people has improved. At this point, it's only gotten worse as this country's become more divided and people just don't function the same way anymore. Yeah, we do have a nice group of Hexicans in here. So, oh, thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, it's always nice to be able to talk with like-minded people. Not that, you know, that we want to live in an echo chamber, but to be able to bounce these things off of people that get it is, you know, it's a comfort and it's a way to grow, you know, and learn from each other. I love it. So thank you all for being here tonight. So Hex Force One, been prepping since 2018, already had some soup and peanut butter expire. Oh, we are going to talk about that tonight, because one of the things I've learned is for short-term food preps, make sure you prep things that you eat and can rotate through, because learn that lesson the hard way, because we don't eat a lot of canned stuff and we stocked it and then we weren't rotating it and it went bad, which is a bummer. It's terrible to have to throw away food. Hey, Drix. Ashleyans. Oh, I like that. Ashley-Ann. I promise I'm not an alien. Though when I was little, my dad told me my sister was an alien. And my parents say that I believed it. Hey, Russ. Nice to see you here tonight in Flat Earth Underground. GTO, thanks for coming in, guys. Yes, books, where there is no doctor and where there is no dentist. So tonight, I'm just gonna pretty much just like give an overview of the three B's. But at some point, like I want to just go over resources because yeah, when the internet's down, yeah, the internet is full of resources. You can print things off and make your own binders. I know people have printed things off the internet and have made their own books, actually bound them, figured out how to bind and sew books together and make books out of things. So that's one thing you can do. Something else that I want to get into is I have a or I don't know where I put these files, but I have a bunch of files of different prepping books and references and everything. And I put it, yeah, I put it, I made a bunch of files together and I want to put it on a thumb drive, and I want to put this thumb drive into a Faraday cage. I already have one hard drive in a Faraday cage. But I want to do that now just for these type of documents, because you know what? It's awesome to have these type of books on hand. So important, to have physical copies of books. And eBay is a really cheap way to get this stuff. That's my favorite way to buy used books if you can't walk into a used bookstore. But if you have to run, if you have to flee, I mean, hopefully you don't have to bug out and leave where you have to be. But if you do, and you need to, grab stuff, sometimes it's easier to grab a thumb drive if you have a laptop that hasn't been compromised. And I say compromised, like let's say if there was an EMP, if you have everything on a thumb drive, that's helpful. But then it depends on what type of scenario. Can you power the laptop that's turning it on? So that becomes a whole rabbit hole. But yeah, one day I think we should do a show just on resources, and everybody just kind of throws their favorite resources in there. Yes, I love that. Forging books with pictures. My dad has one that he's been reading that he loves, and we're actually going to go take a forging class. I'll find out what book he has. It's a really excellent one, and I'll have to link to it in the description. So if you're back and you're watching the replay, you will find that in the description. But if you look up like on CourseHorse, you should be able to find foraging classes around you too, because I think it's really important to be able to be out there with somebody and somebody show you it in person. 1 second after is an eye-opener as to what could be. So I believe that's 1 second after. Is it a nuclear bomb blast or is it an EMP? Basically the same thing, but different altitudes. But it shows, what happens after, what's the societal breakdown of things is. I just know the summary of it. I have it on my bookshelf. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard such good things about this book. This is like one of the ones people are always recommending. This is why it's so important to keep up to date on your dental. I just went to the dentist yesterday, and the cool thing is, if you were going every 6 months or every 3 months, because some people, depending on your gums, need it more often. If you were staying on top of it, for the most part, you shouldn't have dental issues if it's constantly maintained like that, if you have somebody looking over you. So like my dentist, they tell me that we don't anticipate any issues. Everything is good, which is kind of, if you think about it, kind of a claim for a dentist to make, to say, oh no, you're not going to have issues. But because I'm maintaining, because I'm constantly seeing them and they're checking up on me, they're like, no, everything looks fine. So it's nice to get that bill of health at the dentist. If you are afraid of the dentist, you know what? The more you start going, it'll get easier. And then each visit will get easier and easier. And I know it sounds stupid, but if you just kind of make it a routine, and, the more, if you need a lot of work done, the more work that you get done will lead to less work in the future. And you just do it little by little, baby steps, you'll be able to get over that hump, because that is a huge thing. What happens in a SHTF scenario, in a grid down scenario, if you can't get to a dentist? There actually is a book called, where there is no dentist, that Thought's Child referred to. I think there's a series where there's no veterinarian, where there's no doctor. Would highly recommend those. I think you could also get PDF downloads of those for free. But yeah, make sure you maintain that so that you don't have a dental issue, because a dental issue could kill you. That's why it's important to have antibiotics, which we'll cover tonight under Band-Aids. I just want to catch up on this chat before I hop into it. Let's see. Oh yeah, I still have to, I've started following him. I still have to look into his stuff. Okay. So 1 second after that book is an EMP scenario. So I would also recommend having that on your bookshelf. I do. Oh man, and I had another book I wanted to show, but it's all right. Um, Check out the site I made for Hex Foodies channel show on knives. Oh yes, I have to check that out. Um, you know what? DM me the link because I know like the chat is weird about links, but if you DM me the link, I should be able to. Not I should be able. I'll tweet it. I'll tweet it out to everyone. Okay. Cool. Okay, so here's the link. So I guess we can't click on it, but here it is if you can copy and paste it in the chat. Yeah, so Torin, DM that to me and I will retweet it also on Twitter. So thank you for sharing that with us. All righty. So let's hop into the 3Bs. But before I do, I wanted to pull up a statistic here on Survival Blog. That is another one, survivalblog.com. I will put that in the description, in the replay for you guys to find. But I have found this a wealth of resources. It used to be more active back when I was in college, but there's still a great archive in this. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where it was that I wanted to. Okay. So there's a section under resources called Getting Started. And so the guy who runs this website, James Wesley Rawls, he wrote the books Patriots, maybe if you're familiar with it, which is pretty great intro into prepping. I think that was one of my intros into it. So hold on a second. Sorry, I was distracted by the I was distracted by the chat. Okay. So here are the here's some interesting statistics, okay, on survivalblog.com. So it says the fact that you realize that you need to be prepared puts you ahead of 70% of your neighbors. So there's pretty much only 30% of people with even the realization that they need to be prepared for what's coming. And let's say you put together a 1 month supply of food, right? That brings your preparedness into the 80th percentile. And by the time you work your way up into a 1 year supply, you will be in the 98th percentile. And he says it's not very difficult, it's not expensive, and it's not time consuming. You just have to do it one step at a time. And you know what? I love that because it's so true. Really, everything in life is baby steps. If you want to learn to do any type of sport or any type of hobby, are you going to know how to do it right off the bat? You won't, right? You have to make your way there. You have to work your way up to it. And it's the same thing with prepping. You can't all of a sudden be like, wow, I have my 1 year supply of food, bang, bang, boom, get it knocked out. Okay, technically, if you go to one of those websites like My Patriot Supply or whatever that sell the 1 month supplies, don't they sell it on by the, I forget what it's called. Those things that are on the crate and the forklift drops it off by the pallet. They sell it by the pallet. Well, okay, then you could kind of knock it out in one point. But really, to really be well-rounded in terms of preparedness, it is one step at a time. It is little baby steps. How can you start from nothing and then just get into it? Where's the first place to start? The best place. And well, if you look at James Wesley Rawls' website, he says, the first place that you start is praying. And I am all with that. You know what I mean? Because if you're a Christian, you believe that you can't do anything without God. So you just need to give it up to him and just ask him for his blessing and that he would honor what you do. And this is my view on it, that he would lead you basically, because if you ask him to guide you, he'll show you what your needs are in this, because it's overwhelming. It's so hard to find your needs, but preparedness is a process, like so many things in life, so that's how I view it. Okay, I don't have a bunker. I don't have all this cool stuff, a retreat and everything. But you know what? At least I'm a little ahead of everyone else, because it's a process. Preparedness is a process. And one of the biggest things you need to do is just evaluate, see where you're at. Do you have extra things on hand? How long could you go, without electricity. How long could you go without, with the food that you have in your pantry and fridge right now? How long will it last? How can you stay warm? So you need to just like really step back and evaluate everything going on in your life. And then kind of, find those baby steps, start making lists and then build on that. And then it'll just become easier as you do it. You can do a little bit every day. There's actually a book that shows like, here's something you can do every day. I'll have to find that book and give you guys the name of it. But yeah, if you do it with consistency, you're going to get far in a short amount of time, being consistent. And I know in life, consistency is a problem for people in many areas, not just with this, even working out, anything. But be consistent with it and you will get far just with, a little bit at a time with those baby steps. Yeah, so let's get to the 3 B's, but let me just check this chat again. Let's see. The last B is beer. I guess if you're into that, if that'll help you through whatever bad scenario. You can make your own antibiotics. Tons of resources out there for old world medicine and remedies. And you know what? If you can get trained on that, even better too. There's so much training you could find in that in certain areas, Let's see. Cool. So sorry, I'm all caught up. I just want to make sure I was caught up before I went. So beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Okay, so when we talk about beans, when we talk about food storage, food supply, your first, there's 3 ways you can break it down. Long-term food supplies and storage, short-term food, and then water. You need water, otherwise, what do people say that it's like 3 days? I think your body can go a little longer, but let's just leave it at like 3 days. The fact that you can't go longer than 3 days. So with your long-term food, that's like, the food that most people view as survival food. Most people are looking at MREs or, like that stuff from My Patriot Supply, the stuff in the 5-gallon buckets that are, sealed in their Mylar bags. Like that's like your 30-year shelf life food. Shelf life food. Okay, there we go. That they're number 10 cans. If you go on Amazon and you look up like Mountain House, I forget, there's some other brands like Augustine Farms, those number 10 cans, they also last like 20 or 30 years too. So those are your long-term food supplies, and those are like really important to get. But right now, they used to be a lot cheaper, but right now, let's say eggs. I think a few months ago, I bought a number 10 can of powdered eggs, and with that, I think it was like 30 something bucks or 20 something. I don't remember. Now, when I looked for it, it was like 80 something bucks. So you know what? If you think about it, it's also kind of an investment because of the way food prices are rising. If you were to buy it now instead of 3 months down the road, who knows if it'd even be available 3 months down the road, your food supplies or whatever. But if you were to buy it now at 11 bucks something, whatever it may be, and then in 3 months it costs 22 bucks, well, it's kind of like when you buy it early, like you're buying it on sale. So it becomes an investment in a sense. You're making your dollar go farther, especially as the dollar is declining with inflation that supposedly doesn't exist, but we know exists. So yes, that's your long-term food supplies. I would recommend going on Amazon, just seeing what's out there. I think Augustine Farms is like one of the big brands that you see sold on Amazon. It's just kind of a bummer because it has GMOs in it, but I don't know what your other options are. Mountain House is another one. My Patriot Supply has things like that. The Mormon canneries. So if you have an LDS cannery near you, the Mormons are very into preparedness and very into supporting their own community instead of taking government help from each other. So they find ways to have food pantry and to store food in the long term. And the cool thing is you don't have to be a part of the Mormon church. It's open to anybody. And I think they pretty much do it at cost. It used to, like 10 years ago, it used to be so inexpensive, but now like prices have jumped. But you know what? It's still better, in terms of like, I'm sure, per pound, this freeze-dried food still is probably cheaper than like stuff you're getting in the grocery store. So I would look into it and see if you have an LDS cannery around you. And I think one of the cool things is they don't try to convert you, which is cool because no offense to you Mormons, but doctrine, yeah, doesn't appeal to me. So I thought that was really cool. So that's your long-term storage. Let me see what else I have in here. And do what works for your family. When you're getting long-term food storage, make sure you're getting stuff that you're going to eat, or stuff that you will find a use for. So, like I said, that the powdered eggs have gone up so much in price. There are substitutes you can use. I believe it's like, is it some sort of flax powder? Something with flax. I forget exactly. Um, can be used as a substitute for eggs in certain recipes. So look at your substitutes, kind of step back and look through a list online of suggested things. Think about what you eat. What would you want to have in the long term? Do you need your proteins like rice? Rice is an excellent thing to store. Okay. It doesn't like really store well in, or it's hard to get it in the number 10 cans because you have such a small amount of rice. But rice you can buy like in a 50-pound bag, and then you can buy Mylar bags, and then you can buy the food grade 5-gallon buckets, and then you can figure out how to pull the air out of it, and then you can seal it for a long time in those. If you're going to do that, anytime you're buying dry goods, I would throw it in the freezer for like a week because that kills whatever's in it. Because any type of dry goods, usually have like little dormant eggs or bugs in it. You might think everything is clean, but that's why, like, if you keep pasta in your pantry for too long, you see all those like mealy worms. That's because like they're kind of in the semolina, they're in the grains, they're in the rice, they're already there. So putting these things away in your fridge for a week will kill all those eggs, will kill all those like microscopic little things in there. So pasta, beans, flour, whatever dry goods you have, that you'd want to do that first. So you can even buy your own number 10 canning stuff if you wanted to do that, and make buy your own freeze dried stuff, buy a freeze dryer, find ways to store it in the long term. So even if you don't want to go out and buy these pre-made ready, long-term food storage, you can buy the supplies to do your own long-term food storage. And I think the Mylar bags and the 5-gallon buckets are such a great option because you also have the handle that you can carry. It'll be heavy, but it's easier than tossing a 50-pound bag over your shoulder. I don't enjoy lifting those 50-pound bags, but so at least you'll have some options there. See what else is. Oh, okay. I see some back and forth. Sorry, guys, I just want to catch up on this. Yeah, dehydrators are very popular now, but expensive. And I think freeze dryers. I see a lot more people buying freeze dryers, which are so much more expensive than the dehydrators. But I guess you have to just consider what your needs are. The dehydrators are cool, but sometimes I feel like there's a learning curve. I feel like the freeze dryers might be a little easier to use, but you could probably get better long-term storage out of the freeze dryers. But yeah, I would look into a dehydrator. I forget, there's a really great brand out there that everybody had of dehydrators, but I can't remember now. But they had like drawers and drawers where you just dehydrate, and they're all stacked right on top of each other, so you can do a massive amount at once. Beans, bullets, and bidets. Yeah. That's funny. Let's see. Retired drug dealers have the best vacuum packers. I didn't even know that they vacuum pack stuff. Learn something new every day. But that reminds me, vacuum sealers. Think Seal a Meal. You can get I think Seal a Meal, you can do things on a smaller scale. I'm sure there's bigger vacuum sealers, but that is another way to store it for a long time. I don't know if it'll last 20 or 30 years, but it'll last you a while. Hey, Mix, nice to see you. So would you say farmers are set for life? To an extent. The thing is, they still are reliant on well, depending on what kind of farmer. They're still reliant on things that come from the outside, from fertilizers, from for seeds and stuff, and different supply things like water. I guess if you don't have a well on your property, gasoline to run the equipment. So it depends, but there are some people who are completely self-sufficient. I actually volunteered on an organic farm this week, and it was really interesting to see how in certain parts of the farm were off the grid, and then certain parts of the farm were traditional with electricity and running water, but had a heat stove heating this place, and had a root cellar and stuff. So you can see how if you do it on a smaller scale and you're really intentional about what you do, that you can create a homestead that becomes independent. You don't need to bring in any outside stuff so that you can be set. Unfortunately, there is a learning curve. It does take years to learn this, unless you're able to partner with somebody who already has a homestead. Then that would be pretty cool. But that was a really amazing learning experience. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of ground flaxseed and 2 teaspoons of water make 1 egg for baking. Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, okay. And I like that you put your name there because I was like, because I remember you introduced yourself to me, but then I couldn't remember if I was allowed to use your name or not, if I was, yeah, or doxing or whatever. But thank you, because it is now is a little bit of a mouthful for me sometimes. You may have that reversed. Okay, but either way, I guess the concept is if you buy the ground flaxseed, I'm sure it'll say it or somebody could look it up on the internet. If you need an egg replacement, buy ground flaxseed, and it's really healthy for you too. So just like eggs, they say, are like nature's multivitamin, flax is also really excellent for you. So Augustine Farm eggs are $111 now for a $10 can. I think I bought it for 20 something or 30 something dollars a few months ago. I wish I bought more. Can you imagine? That is, let's say 30 for now. 3, 6, 9, 12. That's almost 4 times the amount. Yes, I have to count on my fingers. I'm not a math person. That's insane. And is it a supply thing? Is it the food chain breakdown? Who knows? But that's significant. That's a huge jump. Can you imagine that? Gosh, I can't. That's just disturbing. Okay, your oven. You know what? There's so many creative ways to dehydrate food. So your oven, that's like the traditional way to be used as a dehydrator. Thank you for bringing that up. And I visited my friend's homestead. My friends have a homestead in Ohio, and they were drying things in one of their cars that they weren't using at the moment. Because they have different cars that they use for different purposes. So they made these screens for drying food, and it was summertime. So they put these screens with the stuff drying in the car so that it would dry out, dehydrate. Not my preferred way, because I'm always concerned about off-gassing, but I'm like, that was creative too. So there are a lot of creative ways to dry things. And yeah, okay, so Excalibur was the name of the dehydrator, which is an excellent dehydrator, but like it was mentioned before, dehydrators can be really expensive. And not everybody has that money to invest. But even besides that, if it comes down to the dehydrator or the food supplies, the long-term food supplies, I would use what you got, use your oven, and then invest the money in the long-term food supplies. And then eventually, start putting money aside for whether you want to have a freeze dryer or just a regular dehydrator. Side note, you went to watch Firefly and had to watch Defiance again because it had been a couple of years, just started season 2. I like that. That makes me so happy that you're rewatching Defiance. We need some more Defiance love out in the world. Okay, yeah, the ground flax meal. Okay, clipping that. Now, see, I'm behind on the chat. Now I don't know what's being clipped. Yeah. Crazy, right? And I guess it kind of is an investment if I wanted to go and sell it now. But of course I don't, because I'm like, what the heck is going on in the world? I want to have this stuff just in case. Because even if it's not now, it'll last a few decades. Let's see. Eggs are one of the best for the pineal gland. I need to get the science of that straight again. Anti-fluoride. It's interesting. And I guess it comes back to that whole thing where people talk about eggs being nature's multivitamin. So a good way to so I wondered, is it good for your pineal gland, or does it actually decalcify your pineal gland? I forget what else decalcifies. But I think we all need to be decalcifying our pineal gland because they are doing everything possible to destroy it. See, I've been eating more eggs lately than usual. I went back to being carnivore, which freaks my mother out, understandably. But it makes my brain feel good. I love all those animal fats. I'll get off it at some point. It's like an addiction. No, actually, though, I have to say, it's kind of nauseating, carnivore. Like, I love vegetables. I love eating vegan. Like, that tastes good to me, and I really love it. But in terms of feeling good, carnivore makes me feel the best. So I'm like, oh, best of both worlds. Just got to flip back and forth. let's see. Balance between crypto and preps is rough. Yeah, no, it is hard because sometimes it's like, what do you want to do with your extra money? Do you want to throw it into food or do you want to throw it into crypto? Um, yeah, the temptation is always there for me for crypto. Because of the return on investment that's possible. But then, we look at the food and we're like, wow, that is quite an investment too, staying alive and staying healthy and surviving. But I am with you. That's a tough one to do. I guess I am fortunate in that I don't have dry powder to do either. So it's not even a question at the moment. Oh, Berlin. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it took me a moment. I'm like, Berlin, yeah, Defiance. I love a good Defiance reference. So sunlight decalcifies for sure. I heard yolk represents the sun. Oh, and I think that's also why people say like sun gazing at certain hours is very healthy and helps to decalcify it. But it's also very villainized. Oh, don't look at the sun, you're going to destroy your eyes. Yes, of course, you shouldn't look at the sun. You're going to destroy your eyes. But there are certain times of days where you can gaze at the sunset and you won't ruin your eyes. It's not all that bad for you, and that there are health benefits of it. So you're like, okay, they're trying to deter us from it. There must be something good about it. That's where red light therapy comes into play. Red light therapy is trying to mimic the sunrise and the sunset because of those properties. And let me tell you, I'm obsessed with the sun. I love being in the sun. These lights make me look pale, but I promise you, I am like a lizard for the sun. Not a reptilian, but I love being out in it. There's something that just makes you feel good. And it's probably because it's just so good for your health. Your body craves it. Yep. There you go. Non-fluoride toothpaste and mouthwash. So if you get city water, you're already being poisoned with fluoride, because of course they don't really care about us. So why would they put fluoride in it? Supposedly they care about our teeth. If they really cared about our teeth, wouldn't they be giving us free dental care? Not that I am into the whole government paying for your dental care and your medical, because I'm like, why do I want people who don't care about us paying for that for me? No, thank you. But you know what I mean, if they really cared. Yeah, but you know what? And they try to like demonize it and say, no, your teeth are going to be destroyed. You're going to have issues. Let me tell you, I haven't used fluoride stuff in years. And guess what? I don't have any issues. Knock on wood, and the dentist says everything's fine. I use natural things and everything's healthy. I don't have issues. And people like to say, oh, if you use natural things, then your breath is going to smell, then you're going to smell. No, I don't have any complaints about that. And trust me, I'm around people that would tell me. So let me tell you, you find the right stuff, you find the right herbal stuff, and it will protect your teeth better than the traditional stuff with fluoride and everything. And let me tell you, I can't even use the traditional stuff because I get a sore throat if I use regular toothpaste like Crest or Colgate, and it's because it's so toxic, probably. Yeah. So, and you know what? And I've used like some of those like years ago, Crest Pro Health stuff, and it stained my teeth so badly and it messed, and it was really terrible to the point where my dentists are like, we're reporting this to Crest because this is not normal. It shows you how disgusting and toxic this stuff is. That's not normal. Okay, so yes, decalcifies and more. I will make a Twitter post about it or something. It has come up a lot lately. Yeah. So we need to fight back against people who are trying to destroy our bodies. And this is a perfect way. Decalcifying with the sun. Yes, Anna Hopkins. Sorry, that was the Berlin, the Defiance reference to everybody who's wondering what we're going back and forth about. Vitamin D is a hormone and not a vitamin. Natural sunlight entering your iris triggers the production. And let me tell you, you feel good when you sit in the sun. And, and I don't think it's just like because it's nice and it's warm, like an animal sunning itself on the rock. I think because there's something that happens in your body, that there are natural processes that happen that your body craves, that your body desires. And, it does things for it, balances things in your brain. No wonder sunlight is so demonized. Oh, it's going to cause cancer. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Well, notice the more people stay out of the sun, the higher like skin cancer and skin issues go up, right? And I know people want to say because that there's better detection of things, but I don't know. There's certain cultures who are in the sun all the time, and yet they're fair skinned like me, and they're, they don't have issues. But yet you meet people who have constantly lathering on the sunscreen, stay out of the sun all the time, and then they end up getting stuff cut out of them all the time. And it's like, okay, you would never get burned. Why are you having skin issues? Well, maybe it's because you need to be in the sun. Your body, well, because they say that actually it helps prevent cancer, sunlight. But it's one of those things they don't want you to know, I guess, because of the vitamin D production. The vitamin D fights cancer, but it's a whole other rabbit hole. So we talked about long-term food preps, short-term food preps. Yeah. And another thing, the sunscreen is pretty nasty, the stuff that they have in it. I will not put sunscreen on me. I was out on that organic farm. I didn't get burned. It was, I was fine. And I come from, on my dad's side, very fair-skinned Appalachian people, but yet, I'm not, I'm not burning the second I walk into the sun like you would think people, with that type of skin would be. Because I think it's also, besides just being in the sun and you build up a resistance to it, it's also eating healthy. If whatever goes into your body presents itself in the skin. So if you are not eating well, you're going to be sensitive to the sun. You're going to burn. You're going to have issues. But if you are living a healthy lifestyle, then you'll be fine being in the sun. But yeah, like I said, I was at the farm. I didn't get burned. The only time I will put on a little sunscreen is when I'm at the beach all day, just a little bit, just in case, because sometimes way too much can be, a little intense, all day exposure with it reflecting back on the water. But you know what? When you do that, just look into something really natural. Do your investigating. That's the thing, like we say in Hacks, DYOR, do your own research. It's the same thing. If you know that you're going to need a little bit of sunblock, look at every single ingredient. I have one I haven't used in a couple of years, but but at the time I looked into everything and, it looked good. I'm like, okay, for the one time I have to use it, I think this is a good option. But yeah, that's another thing. People try to say, and even like the eye doctors who try to sell it to you, oh, you need to have sunglasses on all the time. Somebody was telling me that, oh, my eye doctor said this, you need to every time, even if it's cloudy. And I'm like, no. Because your eyes are communicating a message to the rest of your body. If you are covering your eyes with sunglasses, your body can't quite understand, for lack of a better word, how much sun is coming into your body, which is also how people get burned. So if you've been in the sun too long, you kind of like instinctually put yourself in the shade for a bit before you go out into the sun. And the light coming to our eyes gives our body that signal when you need to get out of the sun. When you start putting on sunglasses, you mess with that signal. And interestingly, like Brian said, sunglasses, as more people started wearing them, you started getting an increase in skin cancer. So I guess, maybe overexposure or just the body couldn't process what was coming in, because I'm sure, well, we know the body has ways to defend itself when there's too much sun coming onto your skin. But if your body isn't getting the proper message, then it can't defend itself properly. So I never wear sunglasses. So it's sometimes you might see me in a stream with it on my head. I use them as what's it called? A headband, basically. So yeah, your skin does get used to being in the sun. That's why some people joke about getting a base burn. There are some people at the beginning of the season get burned and then they'll be fine, almost like their body needs to adjust to it. But I feel like, if you're in the sun enough every summer, like I used to be, when I was younger, I used to sometimes get that base burn. But, now that I try to intentionally put myself in the sun for a set amount of time every day, at the beginning of the season, I don't even get that base burn because your body gets used to it. You know what? And that's healthy. And, I also wonder about the aging. They say the sun ages you. And yes, some people that do too much of it. We've seen those people on the beach that look like leather and look 20 years older than they are. Those people who let themselves get all leathery. And I'm not saying that's you. I'm just, this reminded me of that. And you really look at it and you wonder, you wonder, sorry, my mind is going two places at once. Yeah, okay. In those extreme cases, of course it ages you, but really maybe it's other things that are aging people. Maybe it's the toxic diet. Maybe it's toxic skincare products that people are constantly putting on their skin. Now it's like trendy to have these huge, beauty routines when it comes to skincare. You have to put this and this and this on before you go to bed, and then do this and this in the morning. And you look at all the products people are lathering on their face every night, in addition to like really pulling at their skin. It's like, and they're also saying stay out of the sun. It's like, well, how do you know all that, those chemicals you're rubbing on your face every night? Because most people aren't using really clean stuff. How do you know that is not like destroying your skin, and that it's not the sun that's causing the aging, but it's everything else? And it's the way you're eating. The way that you eat presents in your skin too. So I've heard one researcher say that root vegetables have something in them that help the skin fight cancer. We no longer eat those seasonal foods. That's why, you know what? That's interesting. I'd never heard of that. But it makes sense when there's such a push in the health community saying eat seasonal foods. Don't import these foods that are out of season. There's a reason, our body, in order to function optimally, has to be in harmony with its environment. And part of that is eating the foods that, correspond to that type of year, to that time of year. So when the potatoes come out, when during the potato harvest, that's the best time you should be eating potatoes. When apples are harvested, that's the time you should be eating apples. So it's really interesting when you look at that. I'm not good with sticking to that, but supposedly there are a lot of benefits of that. Oh, I do love root vegetables though. Yeah. Purple potatoes. Oh my gosh. And like, I love to eat a potato and just like grab it like a banana and just walk around eating it with nothing on it besides just salt. Love it. So you stay pretty dark. You're out a lot. You looked wicked as a kid, super dark skin and bright blonde hair. And it's funny because, a lot of people would say that no, somebody with bright blonde hair would burn, they must have skin that would burn, but no, it's the exposure. The exposure is good. The exposure keeps you healthy, and the exposure, the more you're exposed to it, the more resistant you're going to be toward, damage, burning, cancers, whatever it may be. So, pretty much, yeah, there's not much of that happening anymore, especially with modern medicine. Once in a while I'll have kombucha. I pretty much don't, because I like to stay away from the sugar that's in it. But I'm all for it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's amazing. And sometimes I will find a low sugar one that they sell near me. But it's probably really good if you can make your own kombucha. You can get the scobies. People think you dye your hair. Wait, hold on a second. Oh, because you're protected from the aging with your diet. You know what? They do say that it's really tied into your hair color, is tied into, besides stress. I heard somebody saying recently that it's tied into diet, and it's tied into something else, because somebody was talking about how to reverse gray hair, that in some people it is possible. But I'll have to post a link on Twitter. I can't remember. Oh, I remember, but I can't remember the name of the account on Instagram, but that's interesting. So Europeans are always cooking in the sun, and as far as I know, they don't have high skin cancer rates. Yes, look at the cultures that are always in the sun and look at their skin cancer rates. And you know what? Not all Europeans are like Mediterraneans that, have high melanin and can be in the sun. Even, you see other cultures in Europe doing the same thing that are much fairer like me, and they don't have the skin cancer rates that we have in the United States. Notice in the US, we are always having higher rates of everything. It just comes back to the way we're eating, I think, and our lifestyles. We think that the things we're doing are healthier, but in actuality, they're not. You get a lot of persimmons in the fall during hunting season. It's amazing. I have to say, eating fruit like that's in season and not taken from somewhere else, especially if it's growing locally, is amazing. It's one of the wonderful things, especially about fall. I usually don't like any season except summer. I like the heat. I like the sun. But one of the nice things about fall is when that fruit is in season. One of my favorite things are when the figs are in season. I love figs. And I live in an area where everybody grows figs because Italians are obsessed with figs, and this area is full of Italians. Yeah, it's nice to have this sun love in chat. But yeah, we're talking about beans. It comes back to nutrition. If you want to keep that that skin healthy and be able to be in the sun and keep those cancer rates down, you need to be eating the right things. If you're eating seed oils and all that garbage, your skin is going to react, your skin is going to change, and you're not going to be able to handle the sun. Exactly. Let foods be thy medicine. Foods really are, what the heck? Sorry. Fireworks. I'm like, what am I hearing? Yeah, foods are medicinal. If you are eating in the correct way, it leads to better health. It's preventative too. So besides the fact that you can heal with food, you can prevent with food, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight for the Band-Aids portion. So I will jump back into that. Exactly, because we're just being poisoned everywhere. Oh, thank you for getting me back on track. So now, okay, so we talked about long-term preps. Now we have to get into the short-term preps. So, those are the food that you're going to keep on hand, you're going to keep in your bunker, you're going to keep in your closet, whatever, the long-term foods for 20, 30 years or sooner if you need them. But what about the short-term foods? What do you need to hold on to in the short term? Like, think about, what do you eat every day? So this is the stuff that's not going to last very long. Like canned foods only have a shelf life of a few years. Some jarred foods have a few years. It's kind of, there's some debate on how that can go. I think it lasts longer than it can because it doesn't have the ability to corrode, because it's not in metal. But one of the things with short-term foods, so this is like the stuff that you're going to find in the grocery store. And this is the stuff that you're going to can yourselves, in the glass jars. So with short-term foods, think about what you eat every day. What is your routine? Like for me, okay, I wouldn't stock this, but it's going to be an example. Every morning I have a protein shake. So some people actually include their protein in their short-term preps. They're like, you know what? Even if things go down, I still want my protein shake every day for breakfast. So they will get tubs of protein and that will go into their short-term preps. Some people are like, you know what? I always like mixed vegetables, and these are just random examples, but I always like mixed vegetables as a side with my dinner every night. So then, you know what? That's on your list. You got to get cans of all different types of vegetables or your can of mixed vegetables. And with this, it's so important that you stock things that you eat, because we've made that mistake of stocking things that we're not super into. Like canned potatoes was one of the things that we had stocked. We don't eat canned potatoes. But we stocked them. We thought it would be great, to have here 20 little cans of canned tomatoes in case things go down, right? And here's some canned soup too. Okay, here was a deal on this canned soup. Let's get 10 cans of this canned soup. Problem was, we were thinking that, okay, that things maybe would go bad sooner, and they never did. We were thinking that the SHTF would happen way sooner, but it didn't. So these foods ended up expiring. And actually, some canned foods that we ended up having ended up corroding through the metal and spilling onto some stuff below. So that was a problem, and things had to get thrown out. And even some of these old cans, you were shaking and you can hear that the content somehow evaporated out of it. Some people like to say that if you store cans properly, they can last years beyond their expiration date. Some can, but I don't know enough about, how that works, what the proper storage would be. I mean, the rule of thumb would be keep it away from extreme heat, keep it away from extreme cold, keep it away from humidity. So if you have a place that's stable like that, then a lot of times you can consume things in jars, things in cans past their expiration date. But our problem was we didn't consume it. This stuff went bad because we weren't rotating it. So basically, if you are stocking things you like, let's say cans of peas, you eat your canned peas all the time, then you rotate through them. So, okay, 1 week you're using 2 cans of peas, then you go to the store and you add 2 more back. One week you're using one of your canned hams, you know what? You buy it again and then you put it in the back. First, how does it go in? LIFO and FIFO. Last in, first out, first in, last out. You have a system that, you're using up your oldest can first while your newest cans are sitting in the back, and then eventually you get to it. So make sure, again, and I keep stressing it because we learned this the hard way, make sure that your short-term foods are stuff that you like and that you eat it regularly enough that you are able to rotate it. That way you always have a fresh stock and it never goes bad. So, think about dry goods you want. Do you want to store cereals? Put some cereal in some vacuum bags or something, or does that crush them? But, just start looking at things that you want to eat on a regular basis. I was going to say soda. Some people store soda, so just think about what you want in that and then make a list of it and then start experimenting on a smaller scale. All right. Buy a small stock of it and see if you're able to rotate it through. And then you just kind of build on it. And here's the thing. Some people think that, it's overwhelming and expensive. And when you buy your long-term foods, that could definitely get expensive and overwhelming. But let's say short-term, you have, let's say, okay, we have a store around here called ShopRite, and at certain times of year they have the can sale. Yeah, like the song, and you can get canned foods for really cheap. So you know what? You just wait for your sales. Look at your circulars. Go to the can sales and buy the 50-cent can of green beans or whatever, because you're going to eat the green beans. And buy 1 or 2 cans at a time. Eventually it's going to add up. So you can do this stuff little by little. You don't have to buy the $1,000 6-month supply of long-term stuff all at once. You can just, you can put $5 in a week and go to the dollar store, if you still have a dollar store, or the $1.25 store, and just buy 5 things a week. And you know what? In time, it'll add up and it'll make a difference and you will be ahead of the curve. So it really does, salt. Go to especially the dollar stores. You can get good salt at the dollar store. By the way, with salt, would avoid sea salt. A lot of microplastics in it, but Himalayan salt is great if you want, the mineral content that's in it. Iodized salt, good for your thyroid. I have to find out why, but the farmer whose farm I was at was talking about canning salt. She was explaining to me why canning salt is important to have and why she buys it by the big bag. And it takes her years to go through, but she's very into it. Like she'll make salt pickles instead of like regular pickles and stuff. But canning salt was her recommendation. So make sure you have salt, because salt can be used for preserving. Get some spices, because sometimes the things that come out of the can can be pretty bland. So you want to spice it up. So let me see. Hey, Riddick. So Riddick says, I just popped in, but I'm hearing you talking about food and healthy food in the U.S. I'm in Europe, so I don't count. Hey, hello to everybody. Yeah, no. Our food in the U.S., if you were getting processed food, yeah, not so good, not so nice. I have to say, though, of course, we should be avoiding processed food. Everybody should be avoiding it. But in Europe, your processed food is way better. And you know what? Your crops and your vegetables and everything are way healthier. Here, they're trying to kill us constantly. I mean, they're trying to kill everybody all over the world, but especially here, we're being poisoned at every turn. So even if you're eating all good, all clean, all greens and everything, if you're getting it from conventional farming methods in the U.S., not so healthy. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Seeds for microgreens. You can sprout your own microgreens. Huge nutritional punch in just like, it even just with the little microgreens. So healthy for you. And look, in as little as 2 weeks. So thank you for that suggestion. That's a great suggestion. Ever try powdered milk? I've never tried it. But I know people that have stocks of it. I'll have to check my inventory. I do have powdered cheese, which is interesting, but I don't know if that's real cheese or not. But yeah, powdered milk, another great thing to have on. Think about it. Is milk something you use? For me, I really don't use milk for any reason. I use hemp milk. So for me, like, that wouldn't be part of my short-term preps, but maybe that would be something I would get in a number 10 can for the long-term, for baking, for whatever. So yeah, so that's like a consideration. Are you into milk? Is milk something that you always want to have on hand? Is it something you want to put in your short-term preps? So milk is another important one. Yeah, Ryan knows what I'm talking about. Oh, bye, Bearded Saint. Have a good night. Thanks for popping in. In the medieval times, you could buy the whole village for a bag of salt from the mine. That was more expensive than gold back then, and it was more expensive because of the preservation you can do. You know, without having refrigeration and everything, they would have to salt things. It's like when you go to certain seafood stores. Is it all seafood stores or just the Italian ones? You'll find the salt cod. And it's not necessarily in the refrigerator. It's just like out. That's because it's been preserved with the salt and it doesn't need that refrigeration because you can do some mass preserving with that. During World War II, my great grandmother was trading like gold for salt and you know gold for one egg. So really things like that do become a form of currency in bad situations. So you should, oh, and also salt, if you were into hunting, poor animals, but yet meanwhile I eat them. If you were into hunting, salt attracts game, right? Salt licks. So salt has so many applications in life. Yeah, Europe doesn't allow GMOs. We do. That's probably also why, you know, we have so many health issues. Even if you're eating healthy, even if you're living a healthy lifestyle, people will still struggle with health issues. And you could be like active and everything and be eating healthy here and still have weight issues for no reason. And a lot of people believe that's because of the GMOs in our food. So yeah, so Europe, you were way better off with your produce and your crops. So the word salary comes from the word salt. It's how they were paid in Roman times. Isn't that amazing? It's a form of currency during Roman times. Wow. So salt, like get them at the dollar store. Sometimes you can get like a pound of Himalayan pink salt at the dollar store for $1.25 now, but which is still a nice deal. Or is it 2 pounds? Like I've seen some really amazing deals. Stock up on as much salt as you can, as much salt as you got room for. So, and then water, you need those water supplies, you know, buying those 5-gallon water jugs that you see, like, you know, for like those water dispensers. That's a nice thing for your short-term, you know, rotations. I mean, the plastic kind of freaks me out, but what can you do in a bad situation? So for the short term, it's a good thing. If you keep it for too long, then it starts degrading the plastic and then it starts tasting plasticky. But if you do, you don't even need a water dispenser. There's a thing you can buy on Amazon and it's a pump that you stick into there and then it's battery powered and it dispenses the water. So that's like, you know, getting water bottles. That's your short-term water supplies. If you want water in the long term, you have to really look at your living situation. Okay, do you have a well? Okay, I'm not familiar with wells. We don't have a lot of them around here, but from what I know, you have your own water source that you're tapping. Okay, that's pretty amazing to be off of the city water and not have to, you know, and have your own water. But then think about what's going to happen if the power goes out. How are you going to operate your well? Do you have enough solar power? Do you have, you know, generator? Okay, how are you going to get the gas? So all these considerations come when it comes to water. But like it's all individualized. It's also different for our situation. I don't have a well, so my water situation is different. If you go to, I think, findaspring.com, you can find where your local springs are and which are contaminated, which are safe to drink out of. You can buy a Life Straw if you're on the run, but who wants to suck water out of those little straws? But Life Straw also makes like this container that you hang up and that you can pour water into, and then it filters down into a little hose, and then you pour it out. You know, rainwater barrels. I guess some places rainwater barrels are illegal, but that's an option too. You can collect rainwater, make sure you have the right filtration, and then you can filter it out and then use that. So water is really dependent on your situation. Maybe you have a freshwater stream running through your property. Okay, but then you have to consider what else is it running through? Is it running through golf courses? I went to a college where our stream on campus was contaminated by all the local really upscale golf courses. All the chemicals from the golf course was filtering into that stream, and it affected the health of all the little critters that live in the stream. So really, you really have to take a hard look at water and what your situation is and work out from there. You know, when I say look at your situation, like one of the big things that come, you know, when you do that is that you have to like make lists. You have to really personalize your list because every list is going to be different. But if you want an idea on how to get started, where your list should start, if you go to survivalblog.com and click resources, under resources, there should be a thing that's called list of lists, and it gives you an Excel spreadsheet of all the different ideas for list. Here's a charity list, you know, if you want to give things away to friends and family. Here's a barter list. Here's a food list. Here's a water list. Here's this and here's that. Great place, you know, to give you an idea on how to get started. Yeah, learn how to distill water. You know what? And I'm just thinking those little units with the water distillation, I mean, okay, you have to run them for a while, but I wonder how much electricity they actually pull. Like if you were to have a good enough solar setup that can handle, you know, putting out however much power for that amount of time, then you can run a distillation unit. If you can't, Berkey makes nice water units that are fed by gravity too. So just think about what your situation would be, what your worst case scenario would be, and you know, because some of you might have an amazing solar setup that can handle this type of stuff. You know, maybe you have access to massive amounts of gasoline to power generators. You know, everybody's situation is different. Yeah, so speaking of food, I keep hearing from US people when coming to the EU how shocked that real food tastes like. And I mean, the same apple, the same tomato, the same meat. Yeah, it's really scary. It's really disturbing. That's why my family and I, we are so into organic, non-GMO foods. Like, you know, working this farm and getting to eat the food on it, it tastes completely different. You taste flavor, you taste this and you taste that. And once you taste real food, you can't go back to that. I could never eat a non-organic potato again because it's so true. Our American conventionally grown stuff tastes like nothing. It's insane. It's just like for the sake of filling yourself up and getting calories, there has to be a minimum nutritional value in it. Okay, so when we talked about the 5-gallon water thing, I said there's a thing that you can put in it that's battery powered and that'll pump the water out so that you don't need a full water cooler. Apparently there's a hand pump one too. Okay, so thank you, Tin Top, for bringing that up. I didn't know. I mistakenly bought the battery powered one. Oh, cool. That's nice to know. Hey, excellent choice. Thanks for popping in. Oh, you can make a solar powered non-electric distiller. Oh, awesome. See, there's solutions for everything in prepping. People have thought of everything. So that I'm gonna have to look up. That I would like to know. But you know what? Because if you solar powered, yeah, because it's with distillation, it's evaporation. That makes sense. So if you just find different ways to get the water to evaporate and you can distill, that makes sense. It took me a second. Oh, cool. You could do a show on solar and wells. That's cool. So if you're starting your own channel, would love to see that. If not, then come on here sometime and tell us about solar and wells, because I am intrigued by solar, but it's when you're like kind of just getting started and trying to figure out solar, it is so complicated. Not to mention expensive, but it's confusing. It's confusing when you don't know all that electrical stuff. So yeah, if you want to come in and explain it sometime, I would love that. So you have a good sized solar system you designed and installed. That's awesome. Yeah, I have to hear about this. You just pull a book of Eli and walk the earth. You know what? Everybody's different. Whatever floats your boat. I wouldn't. That would be my cup of tea. That would not. I don't have enough patience for people. But, you know, just avoid the people, right? With your dog. So, here is the link. Okay. So DIY solar distillers purify contaminated water. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So that if you want to copy and paste it, well, I think you're a moderator, so you guys should be able to click the link. If you can't, then just copy and paste it out of the live chat. It'll be in the live chat. Cool. Yeah, no, definitely. I would love to have you on. I just dropped my pen, but I don't need it now. T-Bird, nice to see you too. So solar can handle most stuff. It takes time to design it before implemented. So basically you can't just like clown around and put a random solar thing together. You got to figure it out, like most things when prepping in life. But that's nice to know. You know, it's nice to know that it can handle things like that. Oh, so that's what it's called. Okay, so LifeStraw, remember I was talking about the water that you pour into the thing. So you know, you guys have all seen those $20, $15 LifeStraws where you can go to like a dirty puddle or whatever and drink the water through the straw and it'll filter it. So it's called so that thing that I was talking about, where it's set up like this, and you pour the water into it so that you're not sucking out of one of those straws, and then it has a hose that you fill up your drink with. That's called a family size life straw. Thank you. Yeah, no, the two of you, that would be awesome. I'm so excited because I really want to learn solar. So the key to a solid solar setup is in the batteries, in the battery configuration. That's what I always figured, but I never could understand it. So I would always kind of just bail on learning it before I would. Sorry, I thought I put do not disturb on. Oh, I did. I don't know what that was about. Absolute design is crucial and decent components. Yeah, I would say. Oh man, yeah, no, so I'm excited to learn it. Thank you guys. Yeah, I hope you both would come on and discuss it with me. Okay, so the second B, bullets. Am I gonna get in trouble for talking about bullets? But bullets doesn't necessarily have to mean guns. Everybody's different. Everybody has different views on this, and I know it's also dependent on where you live and how you live and what your setup is. But like, because everybody's views and situations are different, so the second B, bullets, it doesn't necessarily have to mean actual bullets or a gun. It can mean whatever you want to use for self-defense. Maybe that means knives for you. Maybe some people it means guns. Maybe it means a katana for some people. Or maybe for you it's Krav Maga, or another person, maybe it's your German Shepherd or your Rhodesian Ridgeback or whatever. But like, whatever you choose for self-defense, you have to train in it. You know, like, it's a non-negotiable. Like, people who have guns or whatever weapon and don't know how to use it are a danger to everybody around it. And you know what? This might be a little controversial. I don't mean all cops, but you've seen those videos of cops doing really stupid stuff with their guns. I mean, there's a few examples I can use in my area. For the most part, in my area, you know, every area is different. My area, they're very well trained and don't do stupid stuff with their guns. There's one cop, but that's a different story. But a lot of places, you know, you see those videos online where the woman, instead of grabbing her taser, I guess grabbed her gun and shot somebody. You know, some cops, their training is lacking. And I'm using this as an example. Their training is lacking, and dangerous things happen. They make mistakes. You know, so to me, that's the perfect example of why you need to train in order to be a responsible person who can defend yourself in whatever it is. There are knife classes you can take. There's even pepper spray classes you can take. You know, there's Krav Maga, which is actually, it's a pretty nice fighting system. It makes the most sense compared to some other systems. And I don't mean in a UFC way. It doesn't stand up in a UFC ring because it's more of a close quartered self, you know, defense type situation. Some people have highly trained dogs that'll like really attack. You know, you guys have seen that. Like, you know, you say a word in German and the German Shepherd goes and, you know, attacks. So everybody's situation is different and you have to do what's right for you, but make sure you train. It's so freaking important. And don't just train with everybody. Like, look at reviews, look at the people you're training with. Get a Boston Dynamics spot and use it for home defense. I don't know what a Boston Dynamics spot. Do you mean those little robots that look like dogs? Those are disturbing. Yeah. You can never have too many rounds. So that's the thing. If you choose to defend yourself, you know, with a gun, with a weapon, you make sure you have enough ammo on hand, because if you have the weapon but you don't have the ammo, it's useless. And when you're training, make sure that you're replenishing whatever you have. And you know what? I don't know enough about storing it in the long term, but I've heard you can even vacuum seal ammunition. But also think about reloading equipment. I remember I knew somebody in college, their dad had like a whole reloading thing in his garage, and this is New York, you know, so, and if you do it correctly, you know, it's safe and it works. So maybe that's best for you. Like, especially now, they're having supply issues with that. And besides having supply issues, they're also having, I think it's UPS or USPS. There was a certain manufacturer who says our shipments keep disappearing when we use this carrier. I guess supposedly they're being confiscated or something, even though they're completely legal. But you know, they're having, with people in the world that, I don't know, take issue with them. I don't know, want to take stuff into their own hands and like, oh, we're going to confiscate your packages. But so maybe that's why, reloading could be an option for people. And also, like, consider standardizing your guns. I know it's cool to have a whole variety of things. Like, some people like to collect and be into that. But let's say you have a survival group. Let's say you have a family group all together. One of the best things you can do is standardize. Make sure everybody's on the same page with the same weapon. That way you all are like basically pooling your resources. You're all buying the same ammunition. You're all buying the same spare parts, It works out. You can maybe switch out stuff between people, like, okay, can I use some of your ammo to whatever. But you guys get what I'm saying. If you guys are all standardized, if you and your group are on the same page, it's going to make life so much easier. And you know what? Do your research with it. Don't just get something because it's trendy. Now, if I start naming models and stuff, I know, I might get flagged or something. But there's a standard American, some people call them boomsticks, I guess, to pass bang sticks, to be able to pass the YouTube censors. There's the standard American one that's so controversial that everybody talks about. But what about the communist one? You know what? The communist one can stand up to a lot more abuse, and you don't have to like baby it like you do the American ones. So you know what? Take away those biases and do your own research and find what will work best for you in the situation. Don't go for something just because everybody else has it. Oh, yes. Wasp spray has a range of 25 feet and it works better than pepper spray, but it does permanent damage. I've heard it works better than pepper spray, but I did not know it does permanent damage. But yeah, but look at wasp spray. If somebody sees you pepper spray, they're going to know it's for self-defense. What do they see with wasp spray? They'll just think you have a wasp problem. Some people keep that by their front door as a way to protect themselves, especially if you live in areas like I do, where there's a lot of restrictions on protecting yourself. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, and we have such a great crew in the chat. I'm having a good time with you guys tonight. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of this comes down, I feel like, to poor training. And when I say that, well, they're trained well in my area and, not some others, I'm not saying my area is better. What I'm trying to say is I understand not all cops are like this. Not all cops do these things. But unfortunately, I feel like these things happen because of poor training. So, and use them as the example, take them as the example and be like, I don't want to make their mistakes. And that's why you go and do their training. And there's so many like well-known training places. There's that place in Tennessee with that guy, I think Camden, Tennessee, that's like a famous that. And then there's Front Sight, but I don't know if Front Sight is more fun or whether it's legit tactical training. But here's the thing. If you are going to do any type of gun training, any type of legit tactical training, you need to also have trauma training. You need to know what to do in those situations. So in order to be responsible, make sure you also know how to treat somebody who gets injured in that situation. Again, I'm trying to be, try not to mess up the sensors and the algorithms and being careful with what I say. But I think you guys know what I'm saying. To be responsible, you have to be well-rounded. You have to be trained in using that weapon, but you also have to be trained in treating somebody who gets injured from it. Yeah, and you know what? Red dots. I don't have experience with red dot. I was trained a little differently. I was trained for marksmanship. So they trained us on iron sights, but I've heard good things about it, So yeah, if you guys want to drop your tips for each other, that way we have it saved in the live chat, that would be awesome. Because I don't really know what to recommend. And, my training's a little different than most people. Maybe that's also because of where I live. Maybe we're also kind of limited in our training too. Yeah. That should scare everybody. The IRS bought 5 million rounds. And somebody told me, well, the IRS has always been armed and always been buying this type of stuff. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I don't know. To me, that's concerning. Why is that? Do they want to seize property? Are they, for what reason would you need? Is it just because of protection? Because they're going door to door? Well, they don't arm census takers who go door to door. So this is something completely different. To me, this is seizure. And so you can target certain people with seizure of property. You can invest. Hmm. That's interesting. I'm gonna pull that off. I don't know if it's gonna get me in trouble, but but thank you for bringing that point up. I don't know anything about 3D printing. Um, it looks intimidating to me, so I never wanted to deal with it. But I've heard that, yeah, you can make very nice replacement parts. Gosh, you can make a replacement part for anything with 3D printing, for prosthetics, for I don't know, anything, even aesthetic in your house. It's amazing, and they're so much cheaper than they used to be. And I'm sure they've gotten easier to use. I just never invested in one. How is New York City right now? It depends who you ask. Some people are like, oh, it's fine. Everybody's being dramatic. But, I also know cops and stuff. And the things that you're hearing from the city, thankfully I live in the suburbs, but the things that you're hearing in the city aren't things that were happening a few years ago. I used to be able to be in the city by myself any time of day or even the middle of the night. And I always felt safe. Now I don't feel comfortable there. Even like really hardcore natives that I know of the city don't feel comfortable. So things have shifted. Things definitely aren't the same. But then other people are like, no, that's just Fox News hype or whatever. I don't watch the news. This is the hype. This isn't hype. This is just this is what I'm hearing. I basically don't set foot in the city anymore. And I used to be there all the time, once a week, multiple times a week. I live right near there. I used to be in there. Now I'm like, absolutely not. Thought of moving to a suburb area so I can do my art in the city. So in New York City, definitely stay in the suburbs. I would, because but I'm biased. I love the suburbs. I don't know. Honestly, I would wait it out and see what direction the city goes in, because things aren't it feels like a facade, the whole getting back to normal in the city. Things just things feel off to me. I personally would give it a little longer and just keep an eye on everything. But just so you know, it's so expensive living here. Red dots are great, but you have to learn on iron sights. No batteries to go dead on iron sights. Yeah, you know what? I'm happy I learned that way. And it was such a great way to learn. I actually learned through Appleseed, Project Appleseed. They're called like the Revolutionary War Veterans Association. So if you look up Project Appleseed, if you are not familiar and you want to do this as a first timer, that is a great way to get started. If you already have experience, but you want to learn like marksmanship, I would so recommend doing it. It's such a great way to learn. I used to volunteer with them too. And because it's cool. They relate it to American history, and they explain the history of marksmanship and and that like everybody during the time of the founding of our country, everybody, men, women, children, all had basic marksmanship skills. So they're trying to bring that back kind of to being in touch with our history and our tradition. So it's a great way to learn, because safety is so important, and they really taught you the safety of it really well. So to anybody who's not familiar with that, I like it. And they cover like all different aspects of it too. They have 1-day event, 2-day events. They have more specialized events. So I would check out what's going on in your area. I would totally recommend an Appleseed, even if you're inexperienced. If you're experienced at it, just to see how they pull it all together. I like it. And you want to know where I would do it? I would do that in Manhattan. Can you believe it? There was a range in Manhattan underground where they would have that at. Except Manhattan gun laws are even stricter than the rest of New York State. So if you had them, you weren't allowed to bring them. You had to use what they loaned out at the range. But I think it was like one of the only ranges in the city. Started on irons only for a lot of years, but after using red dots on your ARs and others, I finally caved to them on pistols and loved them. Game changers, good ones. Interesting. Okay, so you moved from that to that. Okay, very cool. Thank you for the suggestion. Oh yeah, there's some nice shots, especially as you get up into the mountains and the Hudson Valley and the Catskills. There's a lot of beauty in New York State. I personally prefer the beauty of northern New York and the mountains and everything to the New York City stuff. But I understand what you mean. Yeah, there is a lot of things you could take pictures of and videos of in the city. Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thanks guys for sticking with me as I'm using those veiled terms because I don't like it's weird YouTube and their what they pick up on and their sensors and how they put warnings in videos. It just creeps me out. And make sure you keep your rear sight and get high co-witness irons. I never know how to pronounce this word. Trigons? I'm not sure, but I've seen it. Are best for co-witness you found. Thank you. Thank you again for those suggestions. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with this. But to anybody who might be, you know what? We have a whole wealth of information between all of us just sharing in the chat and everything. So you know what? If you have any tips or advice you want to put out there, please do. That way we have it in the chat and we can come back and reference it. Because you know when you watch the replay, when you watch a replay, you don't immediately see the live chat, but like maybe 12 hours later, you end up seeing a live chat, and you can click and you can watch the live chat replay along with it, see everybody's tips in there. So everybody's tips and advice. Oh, and speaking of tips, thank you, Vision Null. Thank you. You sent a super sticker. I appreciate that. And nice seeing you in here tonight. So it makes me all giddy. I appreciate it. You guys are so kind to me. Yeah. So it means a lot that you all would spend your money on me. So thank you. Yeah, and I hope you guys are enjoying this content. I'm enjoying speaking about it with you. Oh, and here's one of my favorite things to talk about, Band-Aids, or at least I used to be really into. I used to be into medical training like this. And then something, my brain just switched and made me really squeamish. But I'm glad before the squeamishness happened, I used to not be squeamish, that I got my medical training in. But the third part is Band-Aids. Because, okay, you got your food, you got your water, you have your self-defense. Okay, what happens if you get hurt or get sick? You need to be able to take care of yourself. So like we were saying before, food is medicine. One of the best things you can do for yourself is take care of the way you eat. Stay exercising, stay active, but not just like in the gym with working out. Make sure you're staying active in your functional movement, your functional exercises. Make sure you keep your mobility. That's how people decline with age. The fact that they lose mobility, the fact that they lose those muscles in their thighs, that causes decline. So make sure you're keeping all of that up. And you don't have to be in the gym pumping iron or whatever the saying is. You can be using resistance bands at home. You could be taking a walk every day. You could be working in your garden. Let me tell you, even just volunteering on that farm, the next day, my right quads and my right side glutes, I was like, they were sore. So you see that really, wow, you even get such a workout, just the functional movements, because I was squatting and picking stuff and lifting stuff off the floor and moving stuff around, and getting up into like one of those carts that go around the place. Like you really see that it doesn't need to be, you don't need to be on a treadmill. You don't need to be in the gym. If you're just doing things, if you're lifting things, if you are being functional, not sedentary, that is going to keep you healthy. So Band-Aids, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to eat right and you are going to stay moving. That goes a really long way in keeping you healthy. And then weight loss too. Right now we haven't, okay, we're in some difficult times, but we haven't hit the really bad times yet. We're still at a place where we can make corrections for ourselves. If you have any health issues that you need to take care of, if you have surgeries that you need to take care of, go do them now before there's issues. If you have teeth extractions that need to be done, take care of them now before they become a bigger issue. If you have weight you have to lose, you know what? Lose the weight now. That way you can work on your movement, you can work on your muscle building and everything, and get your body just really healthy before things go bad. Yeah, if things go bad, I'm sure you could lose the weight, by limiting your food intake. I always joke about that. I gained 10 pounds that I'm really not happy about, but I'm like, maybe it'll serve me well when I'm starving. But get those things in line, get those things in order. My favorite thing to talk about, Band-Aids. This should be the video title. Yeah. All right. Should it be? Well, No, no, my sister is the Band-Aid fiend. My sister used to be obsessed with Band-Aids, and I would sometimes gift her a box of Band-Aids in Christmas. Um, but yeah, I should rename it, right? This should be the inside joke. Next time I cover something medical, that should be the title. My favorite thing to talk about is Band-Aids. Oh, thank you, Mr. Okel, for tea or coffee or whatever. I appreciate that. It'll buy me a nice 6-pack of my favorite soda. So thank you. My favorite, well, there's no sugar in here if anybody's wondering why she drank sugar when she was demonizing it before. So stevia. So thank you guys again for your generosity. It's so kind of you. Like, I'm still shocked that anybody would want to do these things for me. So Vision Null and Mr. Okel, thank you so much. So baked beans, that's 2 of your bees used up. I do like baked beans. You know what? That's a great thing in your short term. You know what? Rice and beans, when you put them together, supposedly they make a complete protein. And another version of a bean, another legume, lentil, very high in protein, very good for you. So speaking of baked beans, but yeah, you want to make that complete protein. So, baked beans, rice and beans, all those cultures that eat that, you know what? They got it right. They're really, and forgive me that I can't explain that better, but I just know that when you combine certain things together, you really kind of, you complete your whole circle of amino acids. It's just better. I'm sorry. My my nutritional vocabulary isn't always so good. Okay, you suggest getting a second passport. I've heard people talk about that. I've also heard people say that you should get, if you don't have your own passport at all, you should get a first passport, because when people were fleeing, throughout Europe back in World War II, some of them couldn't leave the country they were in because they didn't have their passport. So it's good to have that lined up ahead of time. So I would recommend getting your first passport. And if you have a way of getting a second passport, a second citizenship, that would be helpful, because I've actually heard that some people I know who do have two, they've said that when they use their other passport, they feel like less of a target. They feel like, having an American passport, a lot of people hate Americans, puts a target on them to be, robbed or whatever it may be. But when they travel with their other passport, they feel a lot safer. I mean, do you have the option to switch between passports? Or maybe they were talking about what it was like with their old passports, but you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. Things to trade. Oh, we should do an episode just on barter and trade and charity, because people are going to be knocking at your door. There's people that joke sometimes. I'll just come to your house if things go down. My mother's like, yeah, I don't think so. I ain't answering the door, because already, like, where we live, space is limited. Things are expensive. A lot of us, we can't be as prepared as we'd like. And then we have to take into consideration our whole family and our other families who refuse, members who maybe don't have the ability to prepare or refuse to be prepared. We have to think that we're taking care of them. You can't then start taking care of your friends who didn't care and who made jokes about it, and then are like, oh, we're going to come to you. No, these people are going to get turned away. But sometimes you will have a situation where you feel bad for somebody. You do want to help somebody out, or somebody who wasn't able to, like an old person, prepare for themselves, So keep extra things on hand for charity to be able to give to them. And also things to barter. So things to trade, in the SHTF, saying it a little backwards, half pints of alcohol, like whiskey. So bullets are another good trade. Antibiotics, painkillers, insulin, soap, etc. Great. These are excellent examples. Speaking about soap, like when you see the soaps at the hotel, people joke and they say that's stealing, but for the most part, those little soaps, I'm sure you can take them with you. I mean, most people do. And then plus, sometimes they got to throw out the stuff that was touched anyway, even if you didn't unwrap it. So bring them home, because they would make great barter or even great charity. Whiskey. My family, we do not drink hard liquor, but we have family member who was gifted lots of hard liquor. So guess what? Instead of regifting it, let's keep it on hand in case you need to trade, or you need to use it as an antiseptic or something. You come across a great sale on certain ammunition that doesn't work for you. You know what? Get it anyway, or if somebody's getting rid of stuff. I have friends who anytime they want to get rid of anything bang bang related, not because they're hiding it, just like, "Ugh, I don't like this anymore. Take it. Don't say no. If anybody's offering it to you, take it. Even if you don't like it, you can trade it. It's weird. It sounds hoardery, but we are getting into a situation where you're not going to have access to the stuff. So if you have the room to save stuff, without being a hoarder, then do it. Antibiotics too. We're going to talk about that. Oh, that's an interesting one. Same with painkillers. Insulin is a hard one though, because it needs to be refrigerated, right? Pea drinks. So do you mean pea protein? So okay. Oh, okay. So pea protein, I'm guessing. So full stomach on 300 calories lasts 2/3 of the day on 300 calories. Interesting. I'll have to look that up. Thank you for that suggestion. I don't know enough about that, but you know what? If you don't have access to a lot of food, being able to eat or drink something that's filling is going to be so important right now. In that situation, so that you're not constantly focusing on how hungry you are. You did that for months and it worked. I don't even know how else to do it. Interesting. So Brian, thank you so much, Brian. Thank you. That's so generous of all you guys. Thank you all. And thank you, Brian. Back in the day when I hung out in bars, this would have been a barkeeper's tip before I left. Much better spent today. Thank you for your content, Ash. Please stop drinking soda. I know. It's terrible. Yeah. Thank you. It's so generous of you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me be your pretend bartender here. Would you like some water? And look, I drink out of plastic. It's terrible. No, I need to stop drinking this. I know my mother's always on me. Because here's the thing. This is it's carbonated water, it's stevia leaf extract, and natural flavors. The natural flavors are always the bad culprit in here. At least it's non-GMO. But so I drink this because it helps with other food cravings, because otherwise I like to eat, So I will drink this because it will keep me from eating, because it kind of satiates me, makes me feel like I had something sweet or something tasty. But I know it's terrible for me. But as I want to lose these 10 pounds, sometimes it's like, resorting to other things. But I know my mom's been, if I tell her you said that, she's going to be like, I told you so. But at least it doesn't have sugar. I don't drink anything with aspartame, and I don't drink anything with sugar. By the way, when you stay away from like sugar in soda and sugary drinks, it becomes really gross. Like, I don't think I could drink a sugary soda. Like, that's just nauseating now. Oh, thank you. That's so nice, Leo. Thank you. The parties. Imagine we could all get together one day at a convention and have all of us together in a room in real life together. That would be fun. Just talking conspiracy theories and prepping and all the stuff that, people think we're nuts, but we're actually ahead of the curve. That would be awesome. Yeah, hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, Toxic had to say Hedgehog. Hexhog. I love that. You'd help a stray dog. Yeah. You know what? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of strays when something happens. If you could take in a dog and, you always just keep charity on your mind. It's important. So you've been to 40 to 50 countries. I have multiple citizenships. USA, my first. The rumors about American treatment are largely exaggerated. You can use whatever passport you want. Okay, good to know. But if you use one to fly out, recommend you use the same to fly back. Okay, that makes sense. You don't flag or get in trouble or something. Suppose in Serbia, the rumors are a bit true, more accurate. Okay, gotcha. So it depends on where you're at and where you go. Okay, that's interesting. But maybe it's also like a paranoia. Do people just paranoid, and rumors go around and then people just follow that type of behavior and then it becomes urban legend. Hoardery, you like that? Long time no see, Bobby Hexelrod. Thank you for coming in tonight. How's it going? Tell the girls I said hi. Okay, so those pea drinks are actually blended peas, so not pea protein, which is way better because pea protein, the way it's extracted, is really unhealthy and toxic. So blended peas, I like that. Oh, and sunflower seeds. Yes, I've heard sunflower seeds is super filling. Sunflower oil, not so good, but if you're having this, as a whole food on its own, it's good for you. So basically, the Second World War was saved by potatoes. They are produced everywhere. You can eat it. You can make alcohol, moonshine, 1,000 ways to make something from potatoes. So keep that in mind. remember these things for your preps. Look at lessons from the past and what they did, because you know what, the past, these people made it through, and and that's how we're here. We're their generations afterward. There are lessons to be learned from them. Talk to these people. Like if you still have the if you still have people in your family who survived through these hard times, and ask them what the lessons they learned was, because it worked for them. They made it through. It doesn't matter, because you know what, our world may be different today. We may be more technologically advanced, but for the most part, when the grid goes down, we're all the same. We're just like they were back then. Yes, thank you. So that was another thing I wanted to talk about. So there's a big fraud about most medicine expiration dates. Aspirin and most medicine lose 1 to 2% potency after 20 years, the US Army says. Yeah, so what happened was, once upon a time, the US Army bought like massive amounts of antibiotics and all these things and had them in warehouses, and then oops, they all expired. So what were they going to do? Were they supposed to throw it away? They would have lost a massive amount of money. So they said, let's do a study on it. Let's see if this stuff is still safe, whether it's still potent, whether it still works. And guess what? They did the study and they found that you can take most meds after their expiration date. Yeah, they might lose some of their potency, but for the most part, they don't. It's only 1 to 2%. And I think they only found out that there were like maybe 2 things that you can't take past its expiration date. I believe one of them was doxycycline, but it's kind of debated whether those people that had issues with expired doxycycline, I think it was doxycycline, whether it was related to that or whether it was related to something else. So, it remains to be seen. Another one, supposedly you're not supposed to take aspirin. Once it gets past its expiration date and smells vinegary, it's gone bad and you shouldn't take it. That's what they say. I don't know, because I've taken expired aspirin that smells like vinegar and I'm still here. You want to know what? I have this allergy medicine. I don't take it all the time. I just take it once in a while. I've tried to get away from taking like a Claritin here or there. But sometimes I have no choice and I need it. And years ago, it was purchased from Costco. So it lasted a long time. And this allergy medicine expired in 2014. And guess what? I still take it and it still works. It still does what it's supposed to. This is the generic brand of Claritin. I think it's called Loratadine. All right. 2014 expiration date. Still good. Same thing with your antibiotics. So you know what? Think about what kind of meds you want to stock. Actually, go to Costco, go to Sam's, go to, any type of those wholesale clubs. You can get a large amount for like a really great price. So think about what's important for you to have. Do you prefer ibuprofen? Do you prefer Tylenol? Yeah, I would definitely stock some aspirin, but make sure you have some other things in case your aspirin does go bad. Are you one of these people that need Claritin to survive? Okay, it's really horrendous for you, so I hope you don't. But think about what you need and then go and buy it. Benadryl, so important to have on hand because it deals with allergic reactions. And I've heard that it might freak some people out, but if you are in a situation where somebody needs Benadryl in their body, they're having some sort of reaction and they can't take it and they can't swallow it. I was actually taught once that you can make a Benadryl suppository. I think they say you mash it up, you pulverize it, whatever, you put it in a paper towel and you put that paper towel up somebody's butt, and that's a way of getting Benadryl in somebody's system. So there's all these, and that comes from training. That comes from medical training too. So if you have a way to get some sort of austere medical training, you learn some really amazing things. But Benadryl is important to have on hand. I hope I don't start a riot with what I just said. And everybody's needs are different, but I encourage you to go out to these stores and buy the big things that you need, because you know what, even if you don't use that much of it, even if you never know what kind of situation you'll get in where you need these over-the-counter meds. And you don't know who will come to your door and need that. Your neighbor, are they in a bad situation and you need to give something to them, so make sure you have enough for everyone, your family members. You can even trade it. Imagine if people don't have this stuff to trade. Let me catch up on the chat before I go on to the next thing. So I want to talk about how to get a hold of antibiotics. Oh, you don't drink the fizzy sodas, but you made up for the Chinese. That's funny because I don't eat those fast food or takeout. So we're balancing each other. Oh man, 419 here. Well, thanks for staying as long as you did. So hopefully you can catch the replay. So I grew up, accent is on point. I am actually a suburban girl. I am born and raised in the suburbs. Um, and yeah, but my accent is from the area. As much as I don't want to admit that, it is it is the stigma with this accent. But yeah. So yeah, exactly. All of you all have an accent. All of yous guys. um but yeah, MREs last a long time. Yeah, and you can buy them online. My dad, I remember when I was in high school, my dad had these MREs that were long expired from when he was in the military. And like we opened it up just to see. We didn't eat it, but the stuff still looked and smelled really good. I know, like how good can it smell? I don't know, but as a high school kid, man, you open up a pack of hot dogs and you're like, oh, that looks really good. I really want to eat that. They do last a long time and they do last beyond their expiration date. There's actually a YouTube channel out there of some guy who like will find old MREs and eat them. He'll even like eat them from World War II. So really, these do last a really long time. You can get your hand on MREs. And the nice thing about having MREs is that, and for anyone who's not aware, I'm sure you guys all know, but anybody who might be watching in the replay or whatever, MREs, meals ready to eat. So it's not just like, like buying packets of, freeze-dried foods or whatever. No, these are actual meals that you get to rehydrate and have a meal right there. And some of these MRE packs come with little fuel tablets so that you can actually warm them up. So, they come with napkins, they come with all these different things that you need depending on where you buy them, whether they're military or not. But yeah, I would have these on hand because let's say if you get into a situation where you're not home and you need to get home in a disaster, you can keep these in your car. Or you need to flee somewhere, you need to get to your retreat property. You can keep this, if you are blessed enough to have a retreat property. You keep this in your backpack, in your hiking bag, and you can carry a decent amount of calories in a small pouch. Yeah, he eats it on camera, but it's fascinating. Yeah, like I saw one that he ate the World War II one. He taste tested that one. That like blew my mind, and that it was still edible. No F-bomb, not in the city. Somebody say an F-bomb? I don't think I said anything. So we talked about over-the-counter antibiotics. How you get your hand on antibiotics or whatever other prescription meds that you might need. First of all, best course of action is to just get off of it. If let's say your triglycerides are high, if your blood pressure is high, do whatever you can to take that down. Like Brian was saying before, food is medicine. If you are eating in the right way, those things will come back into balance. If they are off balance, yes, sometimes it's just something in your genetics, but for the most part, it's tied into what you're eating. And there are people that can help you naturally get off these meds. Like, I know somebody who has a business who sells supplements. He's like a nutritionist and he specializes in supplements, and he sells protein and everything. And what he does is he has clients come in and he says, show me your blood work, and he will customize your supplements and your diet according to your blood work so that you can get off of all the meds and, and be living a healthy lifestyle and be in tune, your body's in tune and everything. So there are ways to get off these meds. So that would be your best thing. If you have the ability to get off it, some people unfortunately can't, some people, maybe their thyroid is gone and they need, thyroid medicine to be able to, to maintain their thyroid. Some people need insulin. That becomes a whole other really difficult scenario. And I am not entirely sure what the answers for that is, especially because insulin needs to be refrigerated. But I have seen a video about how to bury insulin underground in order to keep it cool. So, I mean, there is info about there. I am just not too sure, what happens in those type of scenarios. But like, let's just say getting your hands on extra meds or refills or whatever. And I know sometimes if you have refills and you try to get them early, sometimes your insurance won't let you. But let's say you're not a person with insurance and you're paying everything out of pocket. Then you know what? Why not get those refills ahead of time and have them on hand waiting, at home, just in case something happens. And then again, you rotate through it just like you would your canned foods. Mm. So, oh, interesting. So the potato diet so you corrected it to 2 weeks, got you off blood pressure medicine. That's really interesting. And I think that guy from Penn and Teller also like raves about the potato diet, that it really changed his health too. So there are ways. You see, there's your example right there. There are ways in a really short amount of time. So it's not, some people it's a long process, but look, in 2 weeks, Brian was able to get himself off of blood pressure medicine. So really, when you have these imbalances, it's your body telling you that something's wrong and that you need to change something. So, best course of action is to get off these meds, but and fasting is key. Oh my gosh, fasting is so healthy, especially I've heard about those like multi-day fasts. I want to work my way up to that. But that fasting really helps your body to be able to heal itself. So look on YouTube for what 2 bananas a day will do to your body. Oh, all that potassium. And aren't a lot of people potassium deficient? See, there's so much out there. Like we said, keep saying, and I keep reinforcing that because unfortunately, people are making themselves sicker. Okay, a lot of stuff is out of our control, like the way that things are treated produce wise and GMO wise in our country. But the things that are in your control, like if you can choose better food, if you can make healthier options, if you can change your diet to be able to help your body out, if you can fast, these are things in your control. These are ways you can change your life and get yourself healthier so that your body is in a better state for when something happens, for when the SHTF happens. There's a lot of debate about that. Some people say that veganism is healthy for everyone and that everybody can handle it. Then there are other people that talk about blood types. It depends on your blood type. Some people, it doesn't work for. I don't know enough about, that diets and physiology, together with that. But honestly, I don't think anybody has the answer. Nobody truly knows what's best for some people or not. Like, like I said, I feel best when I'm eating carnivore. Yes, it's gross and it nauseates me sometimes, but I just feel better. So something about it clicks with my body. But then, I've been told that it's probably not healthy long term. So it's, it really, but then there's some people that say that they're healthier long term for it. Same thing with veganism. Some people feel better on it and say that they're healthier long term. Really knows. Is there even an answer? I tend to gravitate right now towards the fact that everybody is different. Some people I do believe can't handle it. So in terms of antibiotics, have you ever been on, and for the most part, in this country, in the United States, we are over antibiotic. All right. And that creates superbugs and that makes people sicker. And then, you're wiping out the good bacteria in your system, which causes a whole other host of health issues. But, with antibiotics, sometimes you have no choice and you have to be on it. Sometimes, though, there's things in nature that can treat it and that you won't need antibiotics. But sometimes you just get in a situation where you need it, right? So, usually, sometimes though, look at your bottle when you're on antibiotics. They might give you 1 course of antibiotics, but for some reason they might put like 2 refills. So check your bottles. If you see a second refill, even if you're not told to take it, go and get that refill anyway. Shoot, I'm losing my train of thought with this. Sometimes you might have to stop early and you have that really short course left and it's like too short a course to do anything. Hang on to it anyway, because you might not know, somebody else might have like, the match to that, and then you'll have a full course together. You might end up getting more of that, in another time. Maybe you're asked to be on a course of meds and you stop early. Maybe some antibiotics didn't agree with you and your doctor switched you to another type of antibiotics. You know what? Get the refills that were left on that one that didn't agree with you. Save the rest of, the doses that you didn't take, because you may be able to trade that with somebody, or you can give it away to somebody and save their life, So find ways to just, work with your refills and kind of, I don't want to say weasel your way into antibiotics, but somebody's going to toss some antibiotics. Oh, I'll take that. Can I have it? Thank you. Oh, you're not going to use that refill? I'll have it, do things like that. Also, in certain parts of Europe, not all antibiotics are by prescription. There's some things that you can get over the counter. Somebody who lives there, and they're visiting. Hey, can you bring some of that with you? Can you mail some of that to me? Maybe there's some you could import. America's frontline doctors had ways of getting certain types of medicines that were controversial to people. You go to an online doctor, maybe you have a friend that's a doctor who can write some prescriptions, and you just tell them the truth that, listen, I want to have some on hand in case something happens. Maybe they could do that for you. Maybe a doctor in a foreign country who can bring you back a ton of meds. Just look at all your options that you have. I know stories about nurses bringing things home from the hospital, because sometimes if a patient refuses a course of meds or antibiotics, they have to throw it in the garbage. And I know some nurses who have brought that home. You have so many options, but you have to keep your eyes open and you have to investigate the different options. Some people take fish antibiotics. Some people take veterinary antibiotics. They say for people use only, for veterinary use only, but I've heard that it's pretty much the same thing. I've never taken veterinary antibiotics. I don't know if enough to recommend it or not, but I know some people do it and are fine. So you know what? There's so many different options when it comes to antibiotics, and even other things like pain meds. Let's say you're prescribed them, but you didn't end up needing them. I got wisdom tooth surgery years ago, and I was prescribed them. And even though I had some sort of big infection or whatever, I was able to handle the pain with just the over-the-counter stuff that he suggested. He suggested alternating 1 dose Advil, then hours later 1 dose Tylenol, and that alternating worked for me really well. So I didn't have to touch my pain meds. But guess what? I didn't toss them, because I thought about, in a scenario like this, if you have an issue, if somebody really breaks a bone and somebody who can help you, but it's going to take some time to get to that person that can set bones. Well, let me keep them comfortable, and here's some pain meds. So, there's all these different scenarios that you can that come up where you can save meds, you can get meds from people. Oh, you're going to toss that? I'll take it. I'll have it. Trying to figure out if I should tell this other story. But before I tell that other story, I had a friend who was a nurse, and she ended up taking 10-year-old painkillers that she needed for something, and they still worked, and they were still potent and everything. You know what I used to do? Oh gosh, my mother's gonna kill me if I tell this story because it sounds so insane. But at the end of because people hand out antibiotics like candy and doctors and everything. When I was in college, there were doctors on hand. Like they had its own, it was a little college, but it had its own doctor's office and stuff, and I'm sure they handed out antibiotics like candy. So at the end of the school year, everybody would move out, and everybody was just like insane. They would just dump it into the halls and leave. They wouldn't even throw their stuff out. And it was a very international school, and people from all over the country. So it wasn't like they can just drive their stuff home. They had to toss it, when they graduated. So they just throw everything out to the halls, or they just trash the dorm and leave it completely clean. So I would go into the medicine cabinets in the dorm and open it up and see what I could find. Any antibiotics, sometimes I would find the antibiotics that people didn't take, and I brought it home, and it's good to have on hand. I haven't taken them. But here's the thing. If you do have antibiotics, it's so important that you buy one of those nurses' drug guides. So it's a nurse's reference to, what ailments you use certain antibiotics for, what the dosage is, according to people's weight, according to people's age and everything. So it explains when to use it and how to dose it. So I would highly recommend, it's so important to have a nurse's drug guide on hand, because even if you aren't able to store that stuff, if you are able to come across it when SHTF happens, and then you find it, you don't know how to dose it, then it's kind of useless, if it's not written on the container itself. But even if you see instructions written on a container, it might be made for somebody's weight and their age and everything. So really, really great to have that reference. So let me catch up. Let me see where I was at. God knows best, right? Put Adam and Eve in a garden, not a dairy farm. I know. I've heard that, that if you look at the way our bodies are made, the way they were designed, they were not designed to consume meat. That we have the bodies of plant eaters. And shoot, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, and that eating meat was a result of the fall of humanity. In the garden, they didn't eat meat, but after sin came into the world, then God allowed them to eat meat. So it's true. I think that's the way we were designed. So genetics play more of a role than people would like, as it's out of their control. Okay, in terms of people having certain issues and certain, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, yeah, I do acknowledge that there are some people that do have genetic components that they cannot get around. But for the most part in our country, majority of people, it's all linked to lifestyle. There's so many things in our country. If you look at the people around you and look at how unhealthy they are, you usually can figure out what's going on in their lifestyle that's causing that. You know what I mean? So yeah, so even though genetics does play a factor, the vast majority in our country are diet and lifestyle. And the quality of our food. If they were eating European food, they probably wouldn't have those issues. Yeah, I know after eating healthy that if I eat crap food, I will feel sick. Yep. Notice that your body just feels weird. Like when you eat well and then you eat something like heavy or garbagey, yeah, you just feel gross. That's your body telling you that, no, I don't want this. This ain't that good for me. And then notice you start craving more of that bad stuff. Like it becomes an addiction. It's meant to be addictive. Oh, interesting. So the book of Daniel says God's people cannot thrive on the diet of kings, high meat. Huh. I didn't know that it said that in Daniel. That's interesting. So see, yeah, there's more that supports that vegan lifestyle. It's just hard for me, to give it up because, like, I mean, and I've been vegan before, but just lately, like, where I'm like, ooh, I feel really good. But I know it's just finding the right balance with the vegan eating. If I put enough healthy fats in, then I'll feel the same way. Sorry, just had to get a beer because in my King Jimmy version, Adam and Eve were in a brewery. Just saying, funny. So when I was young, I want to see the world, see the US and all, but now no effing way I'm going there. The more I hear, the more I don't want to go there. No offense, guys. Yeah. But here's the thing. Things have kind of been collapsing real quick, but there's so much good and there's so much beauty to it. And it really is incredible. We just point out the bad things, especially nowadays, because we're not used to things being like this. So it's so much easier to be like, oh my gosh, look at everything going on. But like when I think of upstate, like it's gorgeous. There's nowhere like upstate New York in this country, except maybe the Smoky Mountains. So and the people are amazing too. So it's really where you go. The cities have issues because of how they're run politically, and people still keep voting for these same crooked politicians, and these cities are getting driven into the ground. And unfortunately, that's what happened in New York. It was in better hands before, and it's been driven into the ground now. But for the most part, when you go out and you meet like the people outside, there's so much good and there's so much beauty that happens, and I'm happy I live here. But unfortunately, it's corruption. People are preying on us, and that's why our food is a disaster. That's why our water is a disaster. That's why everybody's, what is the saying, fat, sick, and nearly dead? That's because of the constant concerted effort to kill and to poison, and that's the corruption that's happening in our country. So the people are good. We're just under bad people, that are ruling us. Sorry, hold on a second. Sorry, catching up on all this. Vet meds are just human meds. Yeah, I know. When it says for veterinary use only, I'm like, is that so? Is that like, just because then they make more money? Because pet meds are cheap, but when you make them human grade, then you can, you know, charge a lot more. Um, Mentally, it's hard for me to get past that block. So, and I have had access, through some other people I know to some antibiotics. So I've never had to accumulate the vet meds. But for, like I said, people I know who have and who have taken it have not had issues. All that stuff about taking horse paste and stuff happening to people was such BS, because ivermectin is actually like safer than a Tylenol. But it's just propaganda, because do you know that a couple of presidents ago they legalized propaganda in the US? I know. Oh gosh. Right, Riddick, I'm making it sound worse and worse. But look, most Americans are like us, these people in the chat. We're not all bad, Riddick. I hope someday you get to come and see the good parts of here. Oh, interesting. Atkins had to create Eco Atkins diet because of lawsuits clogging people's arteries. Yeah, sorry, my hair's annoying me tonight. The weather here doesn't make for nice hair. Clogging people's arteries. I've heard that the Atkins diet was pretty nasty. Had some pretty nasty effects to it. Sorry, I'm just having a good time reading this chat. It's hopping tonight, guys. So no offense taken, but the only freedom here is the freedom not to partake in the nonsense. Yeah, most of us don't. You would fight like-minded people in a hurry, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm all with you on that. Like, most of us in the chat are Americans, and most of us here are like us in the chat, I would say. I mean, not awake, but in terms of, just kindness and everything. Like, I know my European relatives, when they come here, one of the things that impresses them is how nice and how friendly Americans are. And that Americans are like, just go out of your way to help somebody, a tourist or whatever. So that's something that's always impressed them. And that was nice to hear. Again, it's the corrupt politicians that just ruin things for us. Oh, cool. Mexico antibiotics are over the counter. So if you guys are close enough to drive into Mexico, gosh, I would take advantage of that. Or people in Mexico who could send you some? I don't think those would be intercepted in the mail, would they? I don't know, because I stay out of the city, but around here people are starting to wear them again. For a while it was less, but now I'm seeing, like, I feel like half of the people, like, in stores, certain stores, it depends where you go. So the fear is jumping back up. I have no idea what it's like in the city, but see a fair amount of people wearing them outside. And it's gosh, the understanding of what transmits in the air and the efficacy of masks. People are wearing these same nasty masks over and over and over again. N95s were only made to be worn about an hour before it loses efficacy. But you tell them that, and it's like, oh, no. They don't want to hear that. And plus, they're supposed to be fit checked, and nobody's wearing them fit checked. So, like, they're being worn improperly and used for longer than they're supposed to. So really, there's, and you try to tell them, you couldn't. I don't even try to tell people, but like, even if you tried to tell them that their mask is not effective because they're wearing it wrong, because all the air is going in, it's useless. The actual word translated is more like husbandry, not dominion. We're supposed to protect these creatures and not slaughter them. I think, is that a Seventh-day Adventist thing where they have a different view on the word dominion? Oh, thank you, Crypto Jack. Yes, please smash that like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're the good woke, right? We're awake. If you're going to eat meat, eat clean meat. Grocery store meat is terrible. Yes. Like grass-fed, grass-finished. If you're going to go with meat, go with that. If you can go to a local farm, especially where the animals are all happy and everything, that makes me sad. But, that, you're going to get the best meat. You're going to get the healthiest meat there. I love going upstate and being able to, I haven't bought upstate meat in a while, but I used to do that from a little farm upstate, and my family all liked it and enjoyed it. And then I guess because they would do like ground lamb and everything, all these different types of things. And the animals had lots of room and they were happy and everything. And they were being fed not garbage. They were being fed good things. Because with meat, it's like whatever they're eating when you eat them, you're basically eating whatever they're eating. So if that's why it's kind of like why abiding by the kosher meat guidelines really leads to a healthier meat. Those guidelines are in place for a reason. I think it's like the meat needs to have a split hoof and chew the cud, because really those type of meats tend to be cleaner. Let's say you look at a rabbit. Rabbit, people like to think that it's a really clean meat because I guess they're walking around the forest and eating whatever. But think about it. A rabbit has a little paw, doesn't have a split hoof, and it does not chew the cud. And guess what rabbits are? They're coprophagic. They eat their own feces. So they're not a clean meat, right? So I'm like, wow, those rules were in place for a reason. But yeah, it really comes down to what the animals are eating. And if they're like packed in and if they're not diseased from like, not being able to move. Ooh, I saw some meat birds the other day. I mean, they were really cute, but it was kind of sad that they have to keep sitting because they're so heavy. Loving the stream, tons going on. So just having to listen mainly. Thank you. Well, thanks for sticking in here this whole time. Appreciate all you guys who have been stayed here the whole time. It is a little party. Got a party going on in the chat. Yeah, man, there's a lot that can be said. And it's like, and you're such a villain now if you say something different than the narrative with it. But I do believe they have their place, but I don't believe it's how it's being applied today. Because I do have, oh yeah, and that's the last part of Band-Aids I'm going to talk about. I do have austere medical training. We were taught in which circumstances it was, that it works in and it's effective in and how to use it. So yeah, I mean, there are times where it works, but like, again, the way people are wearing it and the type of stuff that's going on today, nothing makes sense anymore. Yeah. I mean, stuff is in the air too. Particles and your eyes are exposed. So, like, how much protection are you actually getting from that mask? Oh, my online ghost. Well, thanks for hanging with us tonight. Have a good night. Let them wear their mask wrong and longer than they should. They will be the best customers for antibiotics. I guess if you want to start an antibiotic business. Here's also the thing. They're saying for the first time ever, they're finding microplastics in a lot of people's lungs. And they're saying it has to do with those masks. And you know what? I've always hated being handed one of those those paper ones that are like brand new, because I'm like, this is filled with chemicals and I'm inhaling it. Whenever I've had to wear it, I've gone with the fabric things that I'm washing, and I know whether it has chemicals or not and whether it's clean or not. I'm like, what are you inhaling with that? So when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, they're inhaling microplastics, in addition to the fact that those masks are off-gassing whatever volatile compounds are in there. Yeah, I don't know how some people are working out in it. When I see that, I'm like, I can't. Oof. I like seeing people helps you identify the sleepwalkers. Katie Hopkins said something interesting today. She goes, you know what? I liked when everybody wore it because, then I knew who was on my side or not. And it's just weird that it became so political. Like, and that people started like judging you and like factions started about like masks and who's wearing them and who's not. But I'm like, they talk about follow the science, and people, my friends who love masks, forget that I come from a science background. I used to do research at my college for it. I had people interested in my research, and so I do have a science background, and I have medical training. I have austere medical training. So I'm like, they think I'm pulling stuff out of my butt, but I'm like, I know this stuff. I've studied stuff. Why won't you take my word for it? The fact that you're not going to get much of an effect out of the way you're using everything right now, but no, because they all of a sudden are the experts, and again, and I'm not for that whole thing of this person's an expert because they haven't studied, this person isn't. No, anybody who does their own research, but these people aren't doing their own research. They're just following the narrative. But of course, I'm the crazy one who, with my understanding and, medical training, oh, no, I'm crazy. You work in a hospital, luckily. Oh, congratulations. A lot of people have, sorry, I pulled that off. You know why. But I want to acknowledge that. That is awesome because so many people You know what? I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh too because so many people, this is why I'm laughing. Not for the people that have lost their jobs. That's messed up. That's wrong. I hope they can get some sort of recourse or money, be able to sue them for all their worth. But I also laugh that when all of a sudden these hospitals are like, oh no, we have a shortage. And then they have to hire the traveling nurses, and the traveling nurses don't have the mandate. So I've heard some of these fired workers have been able to come back as a traveling nurse, not have the mandate, and then make double, triple the monies. And I'm like, joke's on the hospital, man. But that is awesome. Congratulations on getting that exemption. Ugh, plastic everywhere. That's why I don't use sea salt. Full of microplastics. So sorry you live where you're forced to. You need to get out of New York pronto. But here's the thing. I love it. I love New York. It's where I'm born and raised. And for the most part, people are going to hate me for saying this. For the most part, the true blue, and I don't mean blues and red or blue, the born and bred New York people are good people, and are pretty sensible. What happens is when you live in cities like this, you tend to get the people who are like, oh, I'm going to come to New York and be around people just like me. So you get all these people of certain mindsets that move in and then judge everybody and are nasty and, so you guys get what I mean. It's always the people that aren't from here that want to behave like that. But, I love the real New Yorkers. We really are a different type. And especially as you get outside of these suburbs that touch the city, people are different. People are really wonderful. I love it. I love New York. I can never leave. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But nobody wants to acknowledge that those people are getting sicker. No. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Vision Null. I'm the next speaker. Gotta go. You take it easy, Ash, and team have a good one from an American in Oceania. Is it Oceania or Oceania? Well, thank you so much. It was really kind of you, and thanks for hanging out the whole time. You have a good night, and so then it must be like the morning over there, right? Oh, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with us this morning, Vision Null. And I gotta have you on sometime. You throw me some dates that work for you. Because Vision Null, I want to have him on to talk about his work, which is really awesome and exciting. So yeah, you throw me some dates and we'll make it work. Hey, Maddie, nice to see you. Thanks for popping in. I would like to see people stop throwing their trash out of the windows of their cars. Yeah. I don't get that. I'm like, that just is like, I don't know. About to say low class. Is that an offensive thing? But it just seems like, ugh. It's like, I don't know, grow up. So I was born and raised there also, but you can love other areas if you just try it out. You will never know if you don't venture out. No, I get what you're saying. I've been to some other areas and it just didn't feel like a fit. Something has to feel right. And right now, I am happy here. It makes me happy living here. So even though people can be insane, I choose to see the good in it, and who knows what can change in the future. But for now, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. Exactly. My thought in the city too, the energy despite some sleepers. Yeah. Okay. So you guys knew what I meant about that. Thank you. I grew up in a big city. As I get older, I want further and further from the city. Here's the thing. I love being upstate. I love being away from here. And I have such a wonderful time. But when I come back here, it's not like, even when I was gone for the day because I was working that farm, it's not like this, oh, great, I have to be back. I feel happy being back. I love it just as much. I love both places. I love both aspects of it. It feels like, oh, like I like that everything's really close to each other and that everybody lives close. And I love the sound of other people and life, because to me that means life, it's lively. So I like both. Wouldn't the ideal be to have multiple houses at multiple places? Come on, Pulse and Pulsex. I want my house in the mountains. But I want to live down here too. So with all my travel in the cities, you find people stressed and not as nice as everywhere in between the cities. Yeah. No, I mean, it is fine. Sorry, I poked myself in the face accidentally. It's not my teeth. And now my face hurts from poking it. So with all my travels in the cities, you find people stressed and not as nice everywhere. Yeah. I mean, it is more stressful. You're going to find a different element to people in the cities and outside of the cities. That's true. But for the most part, I think New Yorkers get that reputation of being mean, but we are pretty nice, even in the city. Um, yeah, so you guys know what I mean? It's like best of both worlds. I want both. I don't want to live just in one place. Yeah, and when's it gonna launch? Did I heard that rumor of next year? I'm like, how much longer are we gonna wait? I know, but still, I know I have expectations. But anyway, but I know it's going to be game changing. And especially in this, if you're into preparedness, imagine being able to take, your your gains and being able to invest it in the future in the sense of you're ready in the sense of your food supply, a place to go if you're in a city and you want to be at a retreat somewhere. If you want to be able to take care of your family and your friends and be able to have access for everybody. So one of the things that I look forward to with Pulse and Pulse X is that security, that financial security that leads to this other security. And I think it's I'm confident in Pulse and Pulse X. I know it's going to be something big and that it's going to be game changing. It's just that I'm like kind of like when, how much longer? Oh gosh, yeah. But I'm excited. I hope it's the fall. I really do. And I know that sometimes it does take time, that it won't be instant. But I want to know it's there, and I want to be able to see it growing. Yeah. You just need good friends in a city with a guest bedroom. Yeah, there you go. That way you don't have to live there. So I posted a week ago. Old video clip. Empire State of Mind commented 100 years ago, everyone was escaping to New York, but now everybody's escaping to crypto. You know what? And it kind of does feel like its own island, especially like we said earlier. If we have a financial collapse, if the dollar collapses, if we have economic collapses all over the world, the security of crypto, the fact that the security in this is stability the word I want to use, because I know crypto has volatility in it, but the fact that it's more real than fiat money, people are going to look at it as kind of like this this desert oasis, this island, I don't know, this you know what I mean, I can't think of the analogies, that this is going to be an option for financial security, which is just going to it's going to drive attention to Pulse and Pulse X, and it's going to make the prices increase. I'm sorry, about 2.5 hours in, my brain is shutting down, but you guys get where I'm going at, where I'm going, especially as we're like getting more into this whole surveillance state and everything. Crypto is freedom money. You have the ability to transact privately. I know that, you can trace certain things in the blockchain, but if you don't know whose wallets those are coming out of, it's freedom money. You can transact privately right now, or every move is being watched. Every time you swipe your debit card, even if you're just paying cash, you're still on camera. But here, this gives us, the ability to have privacy, because when even in preparedness, OPSEC, operational security is a huge factor in, especially when they want to brand people like that, terrorists. So being able to do these things discreetly, being able to transact discreetly, are going to become even more important, which is going to drive everything even further. It's going to skyrocket things even further in Pulse Chain. So right now we are in such, we are sitting on top of such an amazing asset, and I am so grateful for it. I'm grateful that everybody's here is on the same page. So small circle and like minds. It's really, it's refreshing. It's nice to be able to speak with like minds, and not get the fluoride stare. And there is something to keeping your circle small, isn't there? I just love my comfort zone. You can get a new comfort zone faster than you think. New York's fit in everywhere. Comfort zone made fast anywhere. What's that song? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? No, I get what you're saying. But it's not just comfort zone. It's also convenience. I like everything all close and together in comfort zone. I don't know. But there are certain things that I understand, but every place has its own beauty to it and its own pros and cons. I get it. Yeah, we are way ahead of the curve. We're like already around the curve and approaching the next curve. Oh, your family's from West Babylon. Okay, Nassau County, right? Yeah, Long Island, West Babylon. I was just in Long Island not too long ago. I went out for the Joan Jett concert, and it was a free concert. And it was already full, and I had to leave. It's all right. Shining city on the hill. Knew you were an Islander. Oh, cool. I had no idea you were an Islander. That is awesome. You have everything you need, very close and convenient. Yeah, no, it is where you move. But I'm happy here because I don't see why I would have to leave somewhere I'm happy. But like I said, I don't know where the future will take me. It's possible it'll take me elsewhere. Who knows? Yeah. Anyway, last part of Band-Aids, though, I want to say is get your medical training. You know, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. A lot of people like getting just a first aid certification. Some people like getting a CPR certification. Some people go even to the extent of getting their EMTB certification, your basic EMT certification. I never did that because in New York, they make you do 10 hours of either riding along in the ambulance or being in the emergency room. And I was like, I can't handle that. But you know what? I'm sure you can go through the training and not have to do that whole licensing thing. So that's what some people do. Sometimes you can take like medical courses that are a little more tailored to like an austere environment. There are wilderness EMT courses. There are wilderness first aid courses. But training, because like, what's the point of having this medical thing of stocking things? You know, because also besides meds and stuff, you know, make sure you're stocking your gauze, your bandages, your band-aids, you know, I don't know, antibiotic ointments, alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, even though it's debatable, you know, how to use that. But know how to use these things that you're stocking. Or you can even stock things that you don't know how to use. Like some people stock EMT equipment, even if they don't know how to use it, hoping they'll cross paths just in case with somebody who has that training, or if somebody will join their survival group who has that training. So, you know, you make sure you have that training. And if you don't have the ability to get training, you know what? Get on YouTube. Yeah, I know YouTube can be iffy what type of person you're getting, whether this stuff's accurate. But if you look in the comments, it should be telling. But it's the same thing, you know. Who knows that your teacher is like not insane? But yeah, find your training, and if you can't get training, there's online training you can do that's a little cheaper. Or you can just go on YouTube. The internet is a wealth of training so that you actually know how to use the equipment. I actually took austere medicine training that was basically, it was completely tailored to what you would do in an off-grid scenario, what you would do in a where there is no doctor scenario. Completely cover that. Not in the wilderness, like in a SHTF scenario. So you can find those. That was found through a YouTuber who's, you know, who also taught classes, and I learned a lot. It was very valuable. I don't know if I had, that was years ago. I don't know that I would suggest their classes now, so that's why I'm not mentioning them. But you know, there's a whole wealth of information you can take away from, you know, wilderness classes, because wilderness is an austere environment. So, you know, a lot of those can be applicable in a bad situation. So really look into training, invest in your skills. It's, you know, just as much as you're investing in the stuff, you know, it's important to even, you know, weapons, to be trained in that, but to be trained in medicine too. Let me see what else. So yeah, so I think that covers it. But in terms of basics, if any of you, has any of you read Patriots by James Wesley Rawls? That is a book that gets a lot of people into this. And it's a book that is written about SHTF scenario, but like not just about the scenario, like super detailed. He writes it like an instruction manual. Then they did this with this type of equipment, and then they did it like this. And some of his stuff is like so extreme. A lot of people wouldn't go to that extreme in their preps, but it's still really interesting. It opens your eyes to a lot of things that you can do. It can give you ideas. We're just, you know, it's a great way. If you have somebody in your life that you want to get into this, you know, give them a copy of this if you think they'll read it, a copy of Patriots. I highly recommend it. And then there's a whole series. If you like it, there's more to read. It's not like Shakespeare, you know, it's not this incredible piece of literature, but it's interesting, especially if you are interested in preparedness. So I would highly recommend reading Patriots. Also, Ada recommended 1 Second After. That's another one. Go to survivalblog.com. There's a ton of resources on there. If you go into resources and you click list of lists, it has suggestions. Obviously, you have to personalize the list according to what your needs are, but there's, it's a great way to kind of get started or get ideas for a list. There's also a section called bookshelf under resources with other books that they recommend having on hand. So those are the resources I can recommend. And YouTube, there's so much you can learn on YouTube. And again, train. If you can invest in training, if you can go take a foraging class, do it. It's so different to be in a classroom getting hands-on experience, but also networking the people with the classroom. I learned in my austere medicine class that you shouldn't always do stitches. Because you might think you've cleaned the wound properly, but if you stitch it and you haven't, then you end up with bigger problems. So one of the things that they taught, and we can probably cover first aid more in a different video, was take those bandages that I guess you can tape gauze with, but they also rip very nicely, like they're perforated. You can rip those and almost make your own little butterfly stitches and kind of tape make little stitches, strips to tape a wound shut. And you don't have to use, I think they're called steri strips, and you don't have to use stitches, and you don't have that infection potential that you have in stitches, which I think was a big issue in Korea. So that's something that you would learn in medical training that you may not have realized otherwise. Yeah, or super glue. Some people use super glue. It kind of grosses me out, the chemicals. I would go with the steri strips, but I'm sure super glue has specific applications too. Yeah, so knowledge is step number one. If you got stuff but don't know how, you could do more harm than good. Exactly. Yeah, you dose somebody wrong. If you accidentally, hurt somebody with a weapon because you have proper training, well, what was the point of the stuff you stored if you don't know how to use it? Hey, that's a possibility, But then when the grid goes down and maybe money seems worthless to them and they rather run away, there's the problem. But if remember, you're your own first responder, that would be more important. YouTuber University, don't knock it. Good stuff on here. I'm telling you, people are so willing to share their skills on YouTube. Might as well take advantage of it. But yeah, so always do your own research too. Try to back up, search and confirm the things you're hearing. Look at the comments. Make sure the info is good. Yeah, exactly. Do your own research. So I haven't been to New York in so long, the city of the state. In other lives, pre-age 22, I visited many times. The Coast Guard stationed me in the armpit of Massachusetts, but I lived on the Cape, luckily. Oh, the Cape is pretty. Well, it's a nice place to be in Massachusetts. So you haven't been here in a while. Yeah, well, don't come now. Good stuff, but oh, well, thank you. There's a little compliment rolled into there. Thank you. Everything I've read on the internet is true. Quote by Abraham Lincoln. There we go. Yeah, that is a good one. Electric tape and super glue, you could. Get some duct tape too. Some Gorilla Tape. Oh, there you go. Gorilla Tape for stitches. We were just talking about Gorilla Tape today. Because apparently, once upon a time, not too long ago, in Italy, they didn't have duct tape. So my grandfather sent his brother home when his brother was visiting once with a bunch of duct tape. And my aunt said, oh my gosh, he loves it. He duct tapes everything because it's so convenient. There's so much you can do with it. Hey, Bob, thanks for popping in tonight. We're doing good. We're having a good old prepping chat. I hope you're into this too. Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot. Is it really? Okay. Defiance 2046. Is that, they also had that game that was Defiance 2046. Sorry, we have to geek out over Defiance for a moment. Never played the Defiance 2046 game. I know a lot of people were very sad about those servers being shut down, though. Chilling like a villain. So I was about to say you're up late with us tonight, but then I don't know what time zone you're in, but I see you're in Canada. Tell us, what is Canada like? I hear Canada's a little authoritarian lately. You don't say come to New York, but you want to stay, go figure. Well, I mean, okay. When I say don't come here, I mean the city. I don't go into the city. But most people, when they come here, go to the city. That's the big tourist attraction. I'm like, don't come to the city. But hey, you want to be in the gorgeous Hudson Valley? I say go for it. That I say go for. I am a Hudson Valley fangirl. Oh, misspelled Bob's name backwards. I'm sorry, and I think I said it backwards, Bob. Excuse my backwards speaking. I know. What a prime time to buy, man. Buy the dip. It's on sale. Buy Hex on sale if you can. Man, listen. Because people will like, Hex is dipped. And you know what? People who are kind of, a little more timid about this. And I tell them, I said, listen, yeah, it's dipped. It's dipped what, 90%? And I tell them, but if I had the money to invest, I'd dump a ton more in Hexes. That's how confident I am. So that always throws them off. People like, you would dump more in? I'm like, yeah, of course. Because I think it's a pretty legit thing. Sorry, I'm looking at the difference. This lighting. Look, my arms look tan down here and my face looks like a ghost. Warm and foggy here in Canada. We call it Fogust. Ooh. That sounds unpleasant. But I guess it sounds cute too. Like, kind of. No, but it's summer. I was about to say kind of autumny, but no. What are you saying? Are you saying this is the pot calling the kettle black? Okay, but you know what? At least we're not living under Trudeau in New York. We might have Hochul, but at least we're allowed to leave New York, man. I heard certain Canadians can't leave anymore. Or did they change that now? Okay, you're on the West Coast. Okay, so it's still early in the evening, still 9 o'clock. So you're like Vancouver area. I forget what province that is. Oh, I know. And I'm stubborn. I'm just gonna still keep showing my New York love. Anyway, I'm not gonna relent. Dip. Where's my chips? Ooh, I want some dip. No, it's not. I was about to say it's not carnivore, but man, a Ted Turner's Montana Grill in the city. I've had some really good buffalo nachos with all that buffalo. It's not like dip, but it's like buffalo on top of the nachos. That was good. It's been years, but man, ooh, love that. Now I want buffalo nachos. Fogust. It sounds like a Stephen King novel. Yeah, that could be. Especially, yeah, because Stephen King, Maine kind of has that vibe, right? And it gets a little cool in the summer. No, but you said it's warm and foggy. Sorry, I'm going around in circles. Okay, yeah. Oof. I've heard I've seen a lot of Canadians who are like, you know what? Can anybody sponsor us to get to the US? Because they're like, we're done. I'm sorry you guys have to live under that. I mean, things aren't much better under this president over here, but like that guy is just scary. Have you heard the conspiracy theories about him and who his real father is? Sometimes this stuff, when people say this type of stuff, it's like kind of like eye roll. But then when you see the pictures of this guy near his supposed real father, it's pretty concerning. And to know that his mother used to be friends and hang around with that dictator. So, in case anyone hasn't heard, there's a rumor that's going around saying that Justin Trudeau's true father is Fidel Castro because he looks like him and his mother used to hang around Fidel Castro back in the day. When you walk your pups, it's pretty cool and sometimes creepy. We get some sun in as well. And that's why so many great shows filmed in the Pacific Northwest up around Vancouver. The X-Files for many years did because it gave that like foggy vibe. Bates Motel, Once Upon a Time, it just gave the right atmosphere for these shows. So I love when a spooky or creepy show films in Vancouver. Bates Motel, it's another good one. And 5 Days of Memorial. So since this is was a preparedness show, I'm telling you guys, please go watch 5 Days at Memorial. It's so worth it. And okay, the first episode was kind of but stick it out. It's really a great lesson in this. Oh gosh, I forgot about that thing. It feels like so long ago that happened. So, well, I think that about wraps it up. But thanks, guys, for hanging around tonight. And I want to make this a weekly thing. So we'll figure out some other topics to cover. I've thrown some other topics in my margins that we could talk about. So, yeah. And if you are watching in the replay, or if you come back to the replay, I will put some resources in the description so that if you need to reference back to anything and find out the websites or books we were talking about, I'll put them right there. So yeah, so thank you guys for coming in tonight. A lot of you stayed the whole time. Thank you all so much for staying the whole time. Sorry, I saw X-Files in here, so now I have to see what's. Yeah. Oh, that's so. It's and I love that for the revival season they returned to Vancouver because totally different vibe from the California filmed X-Files and the Vancouver filmed X-Files. Like X-Files and Vancouver were just made for each other. Oh, thank you, ZZ Tesco. Nice seeing you too. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging out here the whole time. Thanks for chatting. The chat was hopping, and thank you for like dropping your information and your advice on this topic. And thank you to everybody who's tipped. This is like, you know, like I said in the last stream, that's something that's very new to me, the fact that YouTube allows this. And so it's so exciting and it means a lot to me. So thank you guys again for your generosity. You all are amazing and generous and kind people. And so tomorrow night, I'm pretty sure Thoughtschild says he's game. Hopefully he is. So I want to have another chat with him tomorrow night for High Strangeness. So same time, you know, with me, give or take 5 minutes. So same time tomorrow night. I'll see you guys here tomorrow. Oh, thank you. You guys all rock. You rock, Brian. Yeah, thank you to all my regulars. Like you all, like I said, my friends that live in the computer. I hope one day we can all gather in person someday and just have some high strangeness and prepping talk. I'm glad you guys popped in tonight. Thank you guys so much. And yes, hello to the replay people. Hope you were all having a great day. And thank you for catching the replay. Yeah, and if you came in late, you can always rewatch this right after I shut it down, or I think you can slide your slider back and watch it that way. By morning, the live chat should be available again so that if you want to see other people's advice and what everybody's talking about in the live stream, you can revisit that live chat. And thank you. I'm the bomb. No, you guys are the bomb. So yeah, and Riddick, I can't believe you stayed up so late with us. So thank you for staying awake and not falling asleep on us. Yeah, so thank you all for sticking out here the whole time. You guys have a wonderful night. And yeah, hopefully less potty mouth, right? I think I saw him and Ada discussing it before. Yeah, because not everybody's into it. So hopefully he'll keep it PG-13 tomorrow for any of our sensitive viewers. I will remind him, and I think he's okay with that. So yeah, so much love to you guys. You guys have a wonderful night. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.